unfortunately, Michael Mann will probably no longer be around unless he figures out a way to keep himself alive via Disney floating head.
Oh man, I was about to say like Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll do it. If anyone can, it's
Michael Mann. Yeah, I usually say that to people.
If anyone can, it's Michael Mann.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good intro. You know what? It's funny. I actually forgot to prepare a quote.
Really?
Yeah. So let me just quick find one from Thief, and then we can get rolling on this.
Oh my god, dude!
This is like off the cuff, like never done before. Just gonna I type in Thief quote, and it's just like generic thieves.
Yeah.
Like the concept.
Sure, go with one of those.
Okay. Yeah. I could, but I don't want to do this a disservice.
True. We do have our setup.
An ace safecracker wants to do one last big heist. Oh, wait, that's the summary. Fuck.
Oh, boy.
Oh, shit. Oh, this is all going downhill. Oh, no.
Really quick, too.
Yeah. Okay, so I click on it, and it takes me to, like, just the general page.
That's why you go to IMDb.
I did go to IMDb.
And then you got to scroll down to quotes.
Yep, here I am. Okay. All right, I'm going with this one. I am the last guy in the world that you want to fuck with.
Yeah.
I figured that's a good quote because it was simple and quick.
Yeah.
Modernistic.
Yep.
That's a local plug for you guys. We're not sponsored. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to the 65th episode of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
My name's Mac.
And we're coming off of the Superb Owl.
Yeah.
That happened yesterday. That's a sports thing? That's in your realm of
Dude,
topics?
Watched it. Yeah. That's in the wheelhouse for sure. Went over, saw my brother and his lovely family. And we had a great time. I mean, we unfortunately ended at 11, and we had to drive back. Me, Jasmine, and Willow, 90 minutes. So, but yeah, I don't know, memorable. It's what it is. But
it was fine. I mean, it's interesting because the Lions were so close to getting in, and for those listening who might not know, Mac and I are from the great state of Michigan, the one where you hold your hand up and you got the whole map of the state available to you.
Depending on what hand.
And the Lions almost made it into the Super Bowl.
Almost.
But then
so
they didn't.
Close.
And then our interest in watching the Super Bowl just waned drastically.
It's weird, too, because like normally it's the Super Bowl. This is the first time that I was kind of just checked out because my team had made it so close. So now I can actually empathize with others that have a team that make it that far and lose and are like...
You understand me.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. It's great. We were almost just like, dude, come on, it's the Super Bowl. Now I was like, great, So I get it.
You're like, who gives a shit? That's mostly me every year, except it's a nice excuse to get together with my parents and have delicious food that my mom makes.
Yeah.
So, that's my favorite part of the Super Bowl. That, and we get some trailers.
Oh, man. I only saw one.
And you saw the one that mattered the most.
Caught my eye real quick. Me and Sam were actually talking. Me and Sam were watching it together, and we were discussing what a jobber was, and we both stopped mid-sentence. It was like us talking over each other, and we both stopped and just stared at the screen.
Yeah. So what we're referring to is the trailer for Twisters, the sequel to Twister.
Oh.
That holds a special place in McClain's heart.
Very near and dear.
It's a PMC, if I can say so, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
Parker Movie Classic.
Yes.
And so they came out with a trailer during the Super Bowl for the sequel, which has Glenn Powell in it. Our boy.
Yes.
Are you excited about that? At least.
So, Glenn Powell is a guy that I thoroughly enjoy, and he's starting to become a babyface. He was in a movie that not everyone's probably seen, but it's a very sporty movie. It's called
Top Gun Maverick.
No, Everybody Wants Some. That's what kind of put him over was Top Gun Maverick. Like him and that is what was it? What was his moniker? Kill Shot or Solo or something where.
It was some like cheeky badass name.
Well, kind of, but it was also like Solo or something like that because all of he leaves his partners to dry. Hangman.
Yeah.
You know why they call him Hangman? Because he leaves all his partners out to hang. Yeah. He's in that, and then he just came out with something recently, like Just for You or Just Go With
Anyone
It.
But You.
Anyone But You, yeah. So
with Sydney Sweeney.
Okay. I just saw something with her Nocturnes.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is that she's got Madam Web coming out next week. Or, no, this week.
No, that's okay.
On Valentine's Day.
And that's about all we need to talk about that one.
You should go take Jasmine to see it.
Yeah.
Great Valentine's Day gift.
So anyway,
it's going to make a web $1 billion.
Please. That thing, is that Marvel associated? Marvel's like one step above DCU right now.
It's Sony Marvel, which is even better.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, so they get fighting parents.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a part of the MCU, maybe.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Let's go take Timmy to see it.
We gotta shovel out money so we can put it in Disney Plus now.
Oh my god. Gotta buy the rights to that real quick.
Maybe.
Anyway.
I don't know. I was about to say Venom. I think there's only one, and I know they came out with 2. I was looking for Carnage the other day on there, and I could not find it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they don't have that yet?
I'm sure well, actually, I don't know, because I was going through and I was trying to find it, and I didn't type it in, so it might be hidden somewhere, but just the one Venom popped up, and I was like...
You can't get any more of Woody Harrelson's awesome wig that he's got.
I have not seen it yet. I have really no desire to see it, but I think I was just killing time.
It's funny because, I guess, light spoilers for Venom. At the end of the first movie, you find out that Woody Harrelson is going to play Carnage in the next film, and he's got this horrible red-haired wig on, but it's really big and curly, and then in the next movie it's really short and trimmed, and they just changed the hairstyle because people, pun intended, clowned on the first one. Ha hee hee ho ho.
Yeah, that's producers being hip with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Avi Arad strikes again. Our favorite guy in the world. Anyway, Twisters.
Yeah, I think we're excited. I think
That's funny because I remember you saying that you were going to maybe pass on that one.
I told Sam at the thing, I looked at him, I said, I'm going to have to eat crow when I talk to Kyle tomorrow because if Glenn Powell wasn't in it, I don't think I'd be nearly as excited, but I really like him.
Yeah.
I enjoy his acting. Yeah, he was in a fine movie called Everybody Wants Him. If you haven't seen it, check that out. Richard Linklater.
That's funny because he's doing a movie with Richard Linklater coming out later this year called Hitman. It's supposed to come out on Netflix.
Interesting.
And it's getting a lot of buzz from festivals. So.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, trailer-wise, I don't know how great it looks.
I mean, it's a teaser. We got 30 seconds of it during the Super Bowl, so it's how much can you really glean from it?
Yeah.
It's it's Glenn Powell reacting to tornadoes, and tornadoes are happening, and then that's it.
It seems like a lot of what happened in the first one is getting thrust back into this one.
It's funny because the way it presented itself, I thought to myself, is this a new Roland Emmerich movie?
Oh, no.
Is this what we're getting?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Well, he's our favorite.
He took $50 from me. I'll never get back.
Oh, you're still salty about that, huh?
Yeah, I will be. I had that episode on not too long ago, and I listened to it. Was the number one. It was the worst movie you saw of the year, and Moonfall was number one. And I went off on Roland Emmerich for I don't know, a minute, and I was so mad in that thing. And listening to it, I was nodding. I was like, "You make a lot of good points."
Yeah. He's not too different from the likes of Michael Bay or Zack Snyder, in my opinion.
No, I think the reason why I am more pissed off at him is because he's actually given us good movies.
Yeah, what? Not. Did he do Independence Day?
Yeah, Independence Day, The Patriot. Godzilla wasn't all that great, but I love it.
That's one that's a PMC we'll have to touch on probably. Is that a PNC?
Oh yeah, that one is definitely
PMC.
PMC.
Yeah. Okay, so that is a PMC. We also got trailers for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which we already had a trailer for that, but they just showed a different version during the Super Bowl, which it looks interesting, and I think enough time has passed to do a nice sort of continuation of the world without continuing the same story.
I got a fear that 2024 and 2025 is going to be regurgitated shit.
Have you seen the slate of upcoming movies? It's 2, 3, Reborn, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of just sequels and stuff. And speaking of which, another one that we saw was Deadpool and Wolverine.
I did not. So I guess we didn't watch the commercials all that much because we had the two girls that we were really excited about, and in the commercial time, we really just talked the whole time. So I did not see that. Was that a good one? Does that look exciting? Because one I'm actually excited for.
They didn't show all of it because it's Deadpool and they're keeping it R-rated.
Yeah.
So they only showed like a 10-15 second snippet of the trailer, and then they're like, watch the full trailer online. And so I watched it, and it seems like they're really going hard into acknowledging that Deadpool is now part of the MCU.
Oh.
So there's going to be a lot of like jokes revolving around that and humor derived from that whole, breaking the fourth wall studio system sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you don't even really get to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the trailer. Like, you see his shadow at the end, and that's kind of it. They're like really saving him, even though there have been like behind the scenes photos leaked online already. So I'm know
fine
what it
with
looks
that.
like.
I'm just curious about his involvement. If anything, it's probably going to turn into like a Godzilla Kong thing.
Either that, or my prediction is they're going to like fight each other at first, and then they're going to like have to begrudgingly work together.
Yep.
Because there's usually that's the type of dynamic they have, I guess.
It's the Kong Godzilla special.
I'm not too familiar with those films. Forgive me.
That's what they do.
Big lizard and big monkey.
Yeah. Instead of having them at war the whole time and declaring a winner, we're going to team them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because this movie was called Deadpool 3, and I guess like Wolverine's involvement just grew so much to where they just can now call it Deadpool and Wolverine.
It's probably, I got to imagine like if they had what was the Spider-Man No Way Home, Far From Home, Can't Come Home.
Homeward Bound.
Yeah, the last one.
Oh, No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah, like if they would have put like it's something involving the other two Spider-Mans, like once I think that attracts you more to the film than like the film itself.
Yeah, Spider-Man Andrew and Toby Sandwich.
Yeah,
is what it's called. And then the last one I remember seeing, and I think this is the only other one, was Wicked, which that one looks weird. I don't know if you saw that or not. It's like an adaptation of the Broadway show of Wicked, the like Wizard of Oz thing.
Nope.
And it's got Ariana Grande in it. It looks weird.
Sure, she's the next Hella
Helena Bottom Carter.
Yeah,
is that what?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to go with.
Well,
Bohemian Rhapsody just kept popping in my head, and that's what clogged the clock.
Oh yeah. She's playing the like good witch, and then I don't know who's playing the bad witch, but it's
who's playing the sandwich.
Toby and Andrew. I told you already. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't remember there being any other ads that had movie stuff in it for the trailers.
I can only tell you one. I can't believe I even saw it because I could have walked in today and been like, they had a Twister trailer.
It was the one you were destined to see.
Dude. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really what it was. Me and Sam both stopped and like watched it, and then we both got giddy. Because I think it's going to probably be absolute trash, but our boy Glenn Powell's in it, so if anything, he could add some charm to the film.
At the very least, it'll have some charisma.
Yeah.
I just like that the whole selling point for that trailer specifically was like, there's two of them now. Oh, look, there's two tornadoes heading towards each other. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weather crisis, so.
Yeah. Disaster
movie.
The
first one was fantastic. I don't know why you need to reboot the thing.
Well, yeah.
Well, to some of us, it was fantastic.
I'm not going to say my piece. I'll just say they're doing it because of money.
Yeah.
And that's always the case. But yeah, I think that was all I wanted to bring to the table before we get into the movie discussions.
Yeah, I think that's all I really got. I don't know if I'd seen anything or done anything. We're still at 5 Oscar movies we have to watch. So
how's that going?
We're at 5.
Oh, you still got the 5 to do?
I keep thinking that May December was nominated because you said something, so I thought I knocked one off, and then I was like, oh, I got 4 left, and then I counted it today, and I was like, no, I'm still at 5. And I'm like, how is that? And then I went, oh, that movie isn't an Oscar-nominated film. So yeah, none of them have. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We'll talk about it.
And we'll talk about it.
And
we can talk about it now. Speaking of movies being released on certain dates, May and December are months, and that's what we watched. May, December.
Yes.
Booyah. And I can summate this since I know you'll probably want to get Thief. So May December is a drama film directed by Todd Haynes and written by Sammy Birch. Stars Natalie Portman as Elizabeth, who is an actress who is living with this family for, I think, about a week, studying up on the story of Gracie, played by Julianne Moore, who, back when she was 36 years old, did some nefarious things with a 13-year-old boy, played by, who grows up to be Joe, played by Charles Melton.
Yep.
And she's living with the family to research for a movie that she's doing, and the movie is kind of just involved with the in and outs of, like, not only the relationship between Julianne Moore and Charles Melton, but also Natalie Portman and her intentions with being present in this situation. So
yeah, the movie May December. And that's about it before we get into huge spoiler territory. Spoilers for May December. Yes.
So this is my second time watching this movie, and we were talking about it before we record, but it's one of those films where when I first saw it, I acknowledged, oh, this is like really well shot. This is really well paced. I really like the acting in this. I think that the score is like, intentionally a little overbearing at points, but I think it's melodramatic, but it sticks in your head.
Oh yeah.
And there's something going on here with a lot of intention. And there's many different things going on that I might not have been able to recognize on a first viewing. The second viewing, I was able to pick up so much more and recognize that pretty much almost every single thing in this movie is very intentional and with a purpose. And it just makes you think about either the situation or the characters or, the overall arcing plot of this thing, the themes, what's going on, what the movie's trying to tell you. And there's a lot about this movie that I really appreciate, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, this is a very rich, well-written film. A lot of character depth. I don't know if we're not necessarily like going on a journey with them as more of like a character study.
Yeah.
But as you learn more about the characters, you get to see how they kind of play off each other. And I, watching this thing, you start going down the rabbit hole just a little bit with it. And by the end of this thing, you're looking at two people that could have spent more time together that still could not understand one another. Now, I think, and I say it in that sense, but I think Julianne Moore knew more about Natalie Portman than what Natalie Portman knew about Julianne Moore.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of it, to me, the whole, one of the themes that's talked on, but one that I really enjoyed when I thought about it was predators. And both in the sense that both of these ladies are predators. And when you say predators, usually it comes with like a negative connotation, Whereas Julianne Moore was a predator with what she did with, what was his name? Joe. And Natalie Portman's a predator in the sense that she is mimicking and copying Julianne Moore. So in the sense that she's stalking her and figuring out how to become her, Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, you get to see, at least for me, who reigns supreme in that sort of, world that they're living in. And you get to see a little bit more of, I hate to say it, but Julianne Moore knew more about Natalie Portman because she's been in an act for over 23 years.
Oh yeah.
Put on this, like the whole time she's just masking everything that's been going on in her life, under this thin veil that Natalie Portman thinks that she can pick up and figure out, and it's funny because this thing turns into like she's studying her, but then it turns into a little bit of detective work. Then it turns into a little bit of I'm transforming into her. And the whole time you're thinking that you're learning more and more about why Gracie, Julianne Moore, did these things. Mm-hmm. And really, you're not discovering anything at all.
Yeah. It's one of those where I really appreciate how the movie's almost narratively telling the inverse of what the movie itself is.
Yes.
So the movie itself is like a very nuanced look at this muddied situation of yeah, right. Of this woman who took advantage of this young boy.
Yes.
And
by the way, they're also, this is 23 years later, so Joe now is 36.
Yeah, and they're still together they're like married, they have 3 kids.
Which I didn't know. I mean, going into this thing, I was thinking that I was going to see a 13-year-old kid on the screen, and I'm like, this is going to be really weird. But no, it separates sort of like the life that of the event of what happened to the life that they've actually cascaded into.
Yeah, it's great that they don't show any flashbacks, and it's important that they don't, because then you just get the sense of the present.
Yeah.
I love that this movie is handling the subject matter with as much nuance and depth as it possibly can without really forgiving Julianne Moore's character.
Right.
And then the end result of what you get is Natalie Portman totally going about it in the most like surface level exploitative way. It capped off with the end of the movie being her filming her scenes and it looking not too different from the porn parody that she was watching in her room that one night.
Yes, that's what. Well, so what kind of the funny thing that comes about this is that the whole time I hadn't. Natalie Portman's in that commercial. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Joe is watching it, and it's kind of you're questioning. There's a lot of things too that happen just with like characters and moments that. There's no dialogue. It's just empty space, but you can tell that there's something going on. And he's watching that, and it's like, I don't know if he's into Natalie Portman, attracted, or if he's studying her, or, like trying to pick up, like, does she have good intentions? It's just a commercial. He keeps rewinding, Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm like watching, I was like, why is she in a commercial if she's doing this movie? Mm-hmm. Normally, like, when you see someone that does, like, one of the lotion, like, they're not starring a major film. And then they start talking about her, and she talks about how she was in Nora's Ark.
I love those. You get like little details of like what kind of actress she is without
really
it being
shitty
explicitly being told to you.
Exactly. That's what that was one of the fun things about it is because you're also questioning because she's pouring in so much time and effort into this. What's going to ultimately be I don't know. The nice payoff for me was this whole time she's doing all this stuff and she keeps asking, and Julianne Moore's like, you're filming me from 92 to 94. Why is that relevant? Why do you have to ask these questions? And she's like, the more I get to know about the character, the better off I can imitate and I can, act as you.
Right.
So she thinks, and like you said, exploitive, she thinks this is her like gold mine to becoming the next, Sandra Bullock.
She's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis after this movie's made.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to see her going into a little bit of this. It's not necessarily a character unraveling, but you can start to see how like sometimes like and she does a great job explaining it in the one scene with the kids about how sometimes you lose focus or you lose where you're at as an actor because it's like she's talking about a sex scene and she's like, am I experiencing the pleasure?
To a bunch of high schoolers, by the way.
Which is funny because it puts you in the same kind of boat that Julianne Moore was in with the whole thing going on with Joe.
Right.
It's and so yes,
it's perfectly mirrored that way.
That when they take these events of present day and put them back into how what Julianne Moore was probably doing, like what was going on with her when she in that time frame. Mm-hmm. And they do, like you said, such a great job mirroring it and kind of not necessarily like showing how it happens, but like you get the same sense of these like really awkward conversations or things that are occurring or trains of thought that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it always brings you back to the original subject matter that the movie was intentionally focusing on.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that throughout this movie, like at the beginning, you get the sense that Natalie Portman's character might be genuine. It might be coming from a place of like, oh, I want to make this movie authentic and real and I want to tell your story about it. But then as the film goes on, you get more and more hints of like her intentions are a little more selfish. They're a little bit more surface level than this. There's really no nuance to this at all. And she's just kind of doing this for very selfish reasons.
Predator. I mean, she's
predatory. It's not too different from Julianne Moore.
Yeah.
And this movie, this is one thing that I noticed 100% more so than on the first time I watched this movie, is that throughout the film, they just get so similar to each other to the point where like they're even dressing the same.
By the end of the film.
By the end of the film, they're both wearing sunglasses. They both have on the same like white dress. They have the same bag and like same even makeup.
Yeah.
That she's like, she just starts wearing the same makeup that she wears to like get in character, air quotes. But it's really just to exemplify to us as the viewer, like they're not too different from each other.
No, they aren't. And it's kind of, it's weird because like we say that, but I do think that there's some of a sense that Julianne Moore knows, or not Julianne Moore, but Natalie Portman. She wouldn't have done the act that Julianne Moore did.
Right.
And that's why I kind of come into it's more about being
different types of predators.
Exactly. And that's where, like, yeah, they're not too different. They're both, and so they both wear the same skin, just have it two different motives for what they're doing, you know? And yeah, by the end of it, I mean, they almost like merge into like one character when they finally meet up towards the end. Yeah, and it's priceless, dude. I mean, and you can, you know, I mean, she uses Joe, you know, as another pawn in this little this game of hers, you know, and trying to like, it's funny because, you know, the hospital scene, or yeah, the hospital, and she's like looking at the hand.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a really, me and Jasmine were watching it, and I'm like, this is like a really weird, intimate conversation. And I was like, I looked at her, I was like, I think she's trying to seduce him, you know? And then, but she's trying to do it so she can become what Gracie did. She wants to see if she can do what Gracie did in terms of her acting chops.
Well, it's funny because the first time I watched it, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
And then I didn't necessarily think about this the first time. When they're riding in the car and he's like going to drop her off back at her place after they have like the whole family dinner thing, she like looks over at him, has this quick thought, and says like, actually, I have this thing for my asthma. It's supposed to help me sleep, but I can't figure out how to get like this thing to clamp. Can you come over and help? And it's like, one, we saw you use it earlier in the film, so we know that you know how to use it. And two, it's so apparent that you're just trying to lure him in to get him alone so you can take advantage of him.
Not only that, but you got to remember, Joe's sisters had asthma, so it's an easy. Oh, like how do you get someone in? You know, it's like, oh, well, I'm the damsel in distress, and I know that you helped your sisters out, and you're a big, strong man. Like, come in here and help me out. But I can't just say, like, oh, I've got this, like, really weird bookshelf. She's renting this place. So she totally played into some of his vulnerabilities, which is what Gracie did when she was, you know, seducing him or doing whatever when he was 13.
The way she phrased it made him think he was in control of the situation, when in fact he wasn't. And that's the whole idea of, like...
Predator.
Well, not only that, but, like, Gracie later in the movie, like, after they have the big... One of my favorite scenes of the movie is, like, the argument in the bedroom.
Oh,
when she says, who was the boss?
Yeah.
Who was the boss? Like, making him think that he was in charge when he was a 13-year-old boy.
He still is in the whole thing.
Mentally, yeah, he's very childlike because he was robbed of his childhood. Like, you know, we can get into that, but
yes, you're right.
More so exemplifying that, like, she made him think he was in charge, but that was just her manipulating him. Because at the end of the day, he's just a child. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so...
Oh, dude, he wrote wrote a poem. She's like, it swooned me. It's like pieces by the lake, pieces drinking Coca-Cola, pieces with you, or pieces, you know, and it's like...
Right.
Dude, like, that got you?
It's right? Oh, wow, I fell in love with him. He's such a wordsmith.
Fucking Walter Whitman sample.
He wasn't like the other boys. It's like, I don't know about that. But also just showing that they're both just so manipulative.
Well, you could almost say they're both like sociopaths.
Yeah.
You know, and they both teeter the line of showing empathy and sympathy, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately their actions that they're guided by and what they want.
I also love that they both are constantly just lying to themselves throughout the movie. Like, Natalie Portman is lying to herself, thinking that she's actually, you know, being genuine and researching this role and, like, going to try to bring these characters to life.
It's the mask. It's the mask that they have to present when they're doing all this stuff. Like, that's one of the best things is, like, not to cut you off, but...
no, you're good. Go ahead.
Gracie talking about, at the very end of the film, and this is, I was kind of... If we touch on it now, we do. If not, we'll get to it later. But she goes, oh, I hope you didn't believe what Georgie said about, you know, my brothers. That's just ludicrous. And Natalie Portman's staring at her, and she's like, no, of course not. She goes, yeah, it's good that, you know, you don't have these insecurities. And that's what strong women do. I hope you can portray that really well. And she walks away.
Or what is she? Yeah, I have the exact quote. Insecure people are very dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah, and she kind of
Unsecure. Make sure you put that in there.
Gives her a smirk. And they both, that's what they're hiding. That's why they're doing all this lighting, the insecurity about all these things happening in their lives. And it's funny because, like, I don't know if Natalie Portman ever really showed it, but Gracie does show it every once in a while. You know, when she gets upset that no one's buying her cake.
Yeah, that's like the very few moments where you get a genuine sort of emotion from Julianne Moore's character.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she's saying things like, I am naive. Sometimes I think it's a gift.
Yeah.
When it's in actuality, you're not naive. You know what you're doing.
Exactly. 100. It does beg the question, and that's I think one of the beautiful things about this film is because, like, you know, when they're at the dress with her daughter, she's like, "Oh, you're so brave." You know, like, I could never show my arms like that. But
right.
It makes you wonder, is she completely oblivious to other people, like a true sociopath, I guess, to other people's emotions and feelings? Or do you think she actually didn't like that dress on her daughter and played it off in a way that would seem as if kind of like complimenting, you know?
I feel like there's intention there. I feel like
that's what I thought too.
To me, you get the sense that she knows what she's doing and she knows she's being manipulative, because I feel like there's so much intentionality behind her constantly lying to herself and to others around her about her own personality.
Yes.
And like how she carries herself.
Which would fit in with the character throughout the film.
Right.
You know, like, I don't think you could make I don't think that you could make it too big of an argument that she's oblivious to things that are happening around her, because she's like cognitively dissonant from herself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's my vessel of a body, but my brain's over here thinking about this. Everything that she does seems to have purpose and intention to get to the outcome that she's desiring, which makes you kind of wonder about the conversation with George, right? And what she said to George to persuade George to tell Natalie Portman. Like, it was such a small thing to have happen, but I felt it to me, it just showed who the alpha was in the situation. And Julianne Moore was like a lion going against a tiger, and, you know, she recognized what she was going against and started, you know, playing, like, you know, next step ahead.
Yeah, because you get the scene where, and we touched on this just now, but like Georgie telling Elizabeth, "Oh, I know why she is the way she is. It's because her older brothers abused her." And she said, "Really?" And he's like, "Yep, that's it." And then later in the film, Julianne Moore confronts her and is like, "You know, that stuff that Georgie said about me isn't true. I don't know why he's telling you these things." To me, that was more, and maybe we have different like reads on this a little bit, but to me, that was more like Julianne Moore desperately trying to save face of the situation, and maybe she had the intuition that she heard about that from Georgie, so then they had a conversation about it, and that's how she found out that it was confirmed that took place. And then she was like, "I gotta go rectify this before they, like, you know, portray me as some like sob story, which I don't want to be." You know, it's like, I don't know, it's
one of the beauty. That's what I'm saying. Like, with this film, there's so much. It's not ambiguity, but like, at the end of the day, like, we're sitting here trying to analyze and dissect a person, almost doing what Elizabeth is doing throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
And so, like, the way I took it was that everything that she does is intentional or intentful. She told Georgie, or she told someone that story to have it get to Natalie Portman, to have like the ace in the hole. Yeah, if you will, you know. So that's, but I could see it the other way too, because I don't remember if she goes, "Me and Georgie talk every day." So at some point, you'd have to imagine that she mentioned it to him, or that she had talked to someone else that had talked to him, and she got that information from George. Because like, you have to think too, you know. And I guess what you're saying too is, if she talked to him, she forced George to say, "What conversation did you have?" You know. Yeah. But the funny part too is Natalie Portman this whole time thinks that Georgie's disassociated himself with his family so much that he has no kindred spirit at all for his mom, Gracie, only to find out that they talk every day and that they're very close. Or, you know, you can only take in that they have at least some sort of relationship.
Yeah. I love too that this movie, it exemplifies like just how focused on the surface level each character is. So it's funny how the end product you get with the movie that Natalie Portman's character makes, they only focus on the surface level things, and that's pretty much what she uses as the end-all be-all takeaway from her experience with that family and applies it to the movie. And then you sort of get that same sense with Julianne Moore, obviously. Like, oh, so this is me on the surface. This is what I want to portray myself on as like a surface level person. And then really like neither person is looking in depth to really take anything of value from the situation and apply it to anything. Like it's all just fake. And I really like how that's just mirrored throughout it.
Oh yeah.
I think it's really great. But yeah, I have a shit ton of notes on this movie because I was constantly writing stuff down. So I wrote, Natalie Portman literally delivers shit to them at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the end of the film, she's going to deliver more shit.
You got to even wonder if that film's going to make it into, like, VHSs.
Right.
Like, I thought that was a really funny thing is just to talk, like, it's funny seeing it the first time and then kind of going back into, like, the memory lanes, like, so the thing ends and, like, you just remember her when she gets to her rental, she calls it quaint. Mm-hmm. It's all right, and then it's like the nicest house in all of Savannah,
right?
You know,
it's a fucking mansion. Basically,
she tells everyone that she has to really study and get into the mind of the character to become the character. So you're thinking Daniel Day-Lewis, you know. I think there's a couple times where she gets like a little not vehemently disgusted, but kind of like, you know, like a little too posh for what's going on. Mm-hmm. And she's talking to the director and probably about how they're going to have an affair on set, you know, if you remember that conversation.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring that up next.
Oh, okay. You know, and like, so this whole time you're thinking like, oh, she's one ahead of everyone. She's working her way. She's gotten up. She's gone from this commercial, the Noah's Ark, to now she's going to be in this Academy Award winning film. You know, and then you get to the end of it, it's just her on the fucking, like, why is there a couch in the stock room?
Yeah.
You know,
and
like,
also the kid playing Joe looks like he's 18 years old.
Yeah, it was very, like, what is this film? What's going on here? Why, like, this whole time you're just led to believe that she's going to have this huge, profound statement and this whole, like, we have and these characters,
and especially from like the monologue that she delivers from the letter that she gets from Joe.
Yeah. And how and oh my God, but she does such a shit. She's doing the list thing and she's like, she actually was doing like a really good job acting. Like doing like being like a shitty actress acting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because like the monologue, the one with the way it's written, but two, the way Natalie Portman is delivering it, you think to yourself like, oh, maybe this could be something.
Yeah.
Maybe this is actually building towards something of substance. And then you get to the end and it's like, oh, this is just dog shit. Yeah, this is literally shit that she's delivering to them, much like at the beginning of the movie.
Elizabeth, this is our fourth take. No, but I can do one more. Just one more. I'm really getting into
I have it in me. That's not going to change the lines. That's not going to change the framing.
So if you
it's not going to change the actor that is literally 18 years old.
So them going on, it's so creepy too, because if you're watching it, the first take is very dry, and by the third take she's like trying to like seduce this, like, you know, it's supposed to be a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, whoever is playing Joe. And that's why she's like, I can do it one more time. Like, I'm really getting into it. And, like, you can tell that she's starting to make that transition back into, like...
Well, she's also complaining to the director earlier in the film that, like, these 13-year-old boys aren't sexy enough for her to, like, have chemistry with. It's like, oof. Well, that really shows you everything about her intentions. Like, she doesn't give a shit about the situation or trying to understand it better.
No, exactly. No, she's all about, hey, but it does make you... and that shows, like, the predatory aspect of it is, you know, like what we're talking about is
100%
that it doesn't matter. Like, we're not looking at these, like, she's not thinking like this is a very grotesque situation. This is, you know, awful. Like, she's like openly judging these kids and being like, no, they're not, it's not really stirring me up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like, all right, is that Elizabeth or is that Gracie there?
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's just the parasitic nature of her as like a quote method actor, which I like how this movie touches on that. It's like not like the most obvious in your face thing, but it's a very prevalent theme of the film of like, this method acting that she's doing for the end result especially is like taking it too far. And
yeah,
there's the idea that like if you're an actor, you should just be an actor. And instead of like trying to put all these like flowery terms around what you're doing and trying to pretend like it's the most profound thing in the world. It's like you're playing a character. You're pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's not much more to it than just putting on a wig, saying some lines, and then at the end of the day, just make sure you do a good job of it.
I mean, I think there is some merit into trying motive, especially if you're looking at an event, you know, and that's where you get a little bit into the mind of why, you know, and
exactly.
And that's, I mean, but I like you're saying though, there's ways of going about doing it.
Intention matters.
Yeah, and she was merely mimicking or trying to mimic all of what Julianne Moore does without it really ever, not even knowing how to get into her, like break her down for why are you doing it, you know, which is kind of funny now thinking about it too, because Gracie a lot of times was asking Elizabeth why she was doing it, and she couldn't give a straight and narrow answer.
No, that's what I mean. Like she keeps beating around the bush of it and being like, oh, I just want to make sure that your story's told. I want to make sure it's done tastefully, and we're going to do our best with it. And it's like, okay, but that's not an answer. Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah. And neither of them could genuinely say to each other what the
why they did what they did.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you mentioned the affair with the director being touched on. I didn't even pick that up on the first time I watched this movie.
Oh, dude, it was not. I'll just give you my whole thing, because like the very beginning, she's talking to her fiance. And they had two conversations. One was when she was explaining it's quaint. I don't know what I'm, you know, blah, 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 blah.
And she's very distracted.
Oh, dude, just ill. And yeah, he even said, hey, like, if you're not going to talk, like, and she goes, no, I want to talk. And then the next conversation, she goes, oh, I got a call from the network. I have to take this by.
Yeah.
And
when she didn't.
Yeah. And I saw at that point, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a look at like maybe relationships and how, you know, like my whole thought the whole time was like, we're going to be living in this gray area, and we're going to have this like really in-depth look at like what love means, you know? And we're going to be able to see that here you have the successful actress, because at that time I thought she was like Academy nominated, you know, and who's struggling relationship at home, and she's gonna find Joe and see that this kid, you know, who's still a kid, and she's gonna have like a oh my god, I'm falling in love with him now because he's, you know, like whatever.
We're the same age. There's an innocence to him.
Yeah.
He's not bad looking.
Yeah. Like, you know, whatever you, and it's kind of like, oh, it's really weird, but oh, I guess love can like transform over these lines, you know, and that's what Julianne Moore did, and maybe she'd get to understand her more. No. And then you just find out she's in it for herself, and the whole director thing. So yeah, I was listening to all of her conversations because I was like, where is she going with this?
Well, it's like one of those things where I watched this movie because like the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, there's a lot more going on than I understand. And then the second time, it's like, this is so rich where almost every single line has a purpose. And I thought to myself, like, why would they be talking about this if it wasn't important? It's because it is. Yeah. And because it tells you more about Elizabeth as a character and her intentions with everything. It's like, she's having an affair with the director. She sleeps with Charles Melton later in the film.
It's what adults do.
It's what grown-ups do. Yeah. Where it's like, this is such a surface level parasite of an actress who just is doing this for her own selfish reasons. And the end of it shows that. The end of it, like the darkness will come into the light, like your intentions will be known, and this is what people will think of you.
So she's got to be the focal point of the story then, right? Because I kind of wanted more to happen with Julianne Moore and Joe, but I guess between the bedroom scene and the Monarchs and what he's got going on with Tex and that gal, you know, you could probably take away that once the kids leave the nest, he's gonna leave the nest too.
Oh, I got that sense too.
Yeah, like him, like when he was, I think there's that like smile when he saw his boy graduate. And for me, it was just like, oh, he's proud. Like, he's come this far. And I think it's probably more so a nod of, like, finally, I can get the fuck out of here.
Well, the most optimistic part of this movie is the idea that Joe was able to give his kids the life that he was robbed of.
Yes.
Because he didn't have a childhood. It's very clear that he's stunted in that way.
Oh, my God.
Like, just...
I think that's you.
Right, yeah. Where... you get the very clear sense that like he didn't even know what it was like to properly be a kid because of all this stuff happening.
Dude,
and
he was raising a child when he was 13.
Exactly.
Like,
well, not only that, but like, you know, his fixations with like the butterflies and everything, like nurturing something, watching it grow, and then releasing it so it leaves the nest. It's very parallel. Yeah, very parallel to what is going on with him and his own kids. Like
him and maybe his own life too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm like? It's getting to that point. He's nurturing some of these wounds that he's had for a long time, and he's bringing it. And finally, I mean, that butterfly getting released could have been his spirit going with it.
Yeah, there's so much life experience that he never even got to have because of everything.
Oh, dude, he's smoking the marijuana cigarette, and you know, he's just like.
Yeah,
dude, this movie too, for as like the subject matter, it has its really funny moments.
Right.
Like he's up there and he starts crying to his kid. And it's like two buddies just smoking a J together.
Well, and the movie, I think, this makes a point to do this on purpose. It's like they don't even look that different in age.
No.
Like they look like they could just be like older brother, younger brother.
100. Well, that's kind of like what it is almost. You know, I mean,
almost, yeah.
Like he's 36. Like that's 3 years from me, and they'd be Preston graduating high school.
And his kid's 18. Like there's not. Yeah.
It's like, Joe, could you help me out here? He's like, he doesn't know how to tell a kid, like, hey, that's the wrong thing to do. He never got to experience that. Mm-hmm. He was the one I was rooting for most in this film.
I viewed this movie the second time as like him being sort of like the secret protagonist. Like,
yes, that's he's at least, maybe in terms of arc or growth, he experiences the most.
Yes.
The two chicks don't learn anything.
No.
You know, and I don't mean it to say it like, but the two sociopaths literally learn nothing.
This movie just says women toxic.
I
don't want to be reductive, but
yes, it was Joe going through all of these experiences and learning things, and we as audience members get to learn this we're seeing it with him for the first time.
Yeah,
you know, this isn't past things where he's learned and he's kind of keeping his guard up. Like he's got no idea. Like he was very sincere when he said, "I thought you liked me," to Elizabeth when they had sex. You know?
Yeah, there's that childlike innocence that's coming up.
Yeah, he really has no idea because he's only been with one lady, mm-hmm. and also it's almost like being in middle school again. It's like you kissed another girl. It's like, I only did that to get back at my boyfriend for what he did, and you're like, well, what the fuck? You're toying with my emotions.
Yeah.
You know,
his acting in this movie is so good, and to me, it felt like him as a child trying to pretend to be what he thinks a grown up is.
Yes.
So, like, he's doing all these things. He's, like, taking care of the house. He's cooking. He's doing all blah, blah, blah.
Robot.
He's just going through the motions. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, sort of him. We're able to tell, like, he's acknowledging, like, okay, I have to do this because this is what I should do. Like, this is what people think that an adult should be, right?
Yeah.
And then as the movie goes along, you get more and more the sense of, like, he's just a child in a grown-up's body.
Yeah.
He has no idea what to think or do of, like, any of this, because he's just so mentally stunted in that way.
Dude, he was 25. His oldest daughter was graduating college, or Honor was already in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
like the twins we see they're 18. We don't know. Honor is coming back from college, so she could be 21.
Yeah, 21, 22.
Like he was 26 when she was 11.
Yeah,
like, he's 28 with a 13-year-old.
That's insane.
You know what I'm like?
Mm-hmm.
That you right now, if there was a 17, like your kid, like you right now having a kid that's going to graduate high school or going into senior year,
that terrifies me.
You know what I'm saying? And like here he is, and he's gone so much into like, he's almost like an actor himself.
Yeah,
like you're saying, you know, like he's got to go through these events and situations to the best of his knowledge, and he's faking it the whole time because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, the other two main characters, Gracie and Elizabeth, they're doing whatever they can to only show like the surface level versions of themselves, and then meanwhile Joe throughout the film is just struggling to keep his genuine emotions together.
Yeah,
and like it all comes bubbling to the surface, and like it climaxes into that bedroom argument scene,
which is really good,
amazing. And I'm astonished that the dude wasn't nominated for an acting category.
It's so weird to think about. Like, I could see him being best supporting.
Right.
I just feel like it's one of those things where you watch it and it's like,
You can almost make the argument he's like the lead actor.
Well, I know, but I'm saying like when you watch, it's like he has a lot of depth, but maybe not a lot of range. But like when it does come over, he does it so organically.
It feels so genuine.
Yeah, but I'm like watching him the whole time. He's like, so when I turn, the first thing is like they're at that party and he's just cooking, and I'm like, that kid's 13. And I'm like, what is going on here? And he goes, hey, I think that's you. That guy that was like, yeah, no, I Googled Elizabeth Carter naked.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, yeah.
Elizabeth Berry, I think her name was.
Elizabeth Berry. And he goes, oh, and then the girl starts crying and goes, oh, I think that's you. And I'm like, okay, what? This is, and then you find out he's 36, and it's like, oh, he's just this like caveman, 13-year-old guy walking around.
Yeah.
So I'm not discrediting him. He does a fantastic job, but I'm also like, I don't know how much the Academy is like, oh, look at all the range that he's got. But the moments that he has are so well done, which is, I think, like what I'm like, I'm so torn on, was it fantastic or was it just really juicy and he only had to do a couple things?
Right.
I
think it speaks a lot to his acting ability, and it's one of those things where those are the most memorable parts of the movie for me. Is like ones that he's involved.
Well,
in.
Yeah, probably because he's the most relatable too. No one's really relatable, but in terms of most relatable, it'd be him, just because of like he shows emotions.
Well, like the two main characters you get are like the most parasitic, like predatory characters in the whole movie, and then you get him, where it's like you don't really know what's going on in his mind, but you can kind of tell like on his face like what things are like in his head, and then like your suspicions are confirmed when he has those emotional moments, like between him and Elizabeth and him and Gracie. Like him and his son. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the way it plays out, and I think that it's just masterfully done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got more notes here if I can go through those.
Dude, I got done. There's not a lot of times where I watch a film and I'm like, I want to see the reviews on it. Mm-hmm. And this was one that I was like, I kind of want to hear what other people have to say about this, because I have my idea on it, but I also when it's layered enough, there's so many different takes on it. I can't tell you. I've seen like 3 different takes on Julianne Moore's character. And like, was she a sociopath? Was she just like oblivious to everything going on? Was she cognitively?
Was she actually naive?
Yeah, like to me, that's a sign of a really well written story, is when you can look at someone like that and have 3 people give you 3 different answers.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
no, a lot of it I acknowledge was like smaller stuff that just adds to the movie. So one thing Gracie says during the first like dinner that she has Elizabeth over in her house for, she said, I think my childhood was exceptional. And then her son slams the door because he asked to be excused. Joe says he doesn't remember when he and Gracie met, but then chimes in for what grade he was in whenever they were talking about like when they first encountered each other. Yeah. Where like Elizabeth said like, oh, was it 6th grade? And then he comes in and he says 7th grade. Yeah. Even right after he says he doesn't remember much about it, just trying to save whatever face he can.
It could be too, because when they started talking about the pet shop, they said that she hired Joe in 92. Mm-hmm. And so my whole thing, every time I heard that, I was like, I don't know if he's going back to like how, like, I mean, as a 13-year-old, they're like, when was the first time I ever met Gracie? It's like, I don't know. Like, she was just around the area. Like, I don't know the first time I saw, but you could remember like when all the things were happening. Yeah. So that's how at least how I was taking it, was like, he's thinking like, all right, did I meet her at a dinner party? Well, I was friends with George. Was it like when I went to hang out with George, I met her for the first time? Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I'm just scrolling through because like we already touched on some of these. Yeah. So some of these I'm just kind of skipping. Yeah, Elizabeth starts describing in detail how a sex scene feels to a bunch of high schoolers. Yeah, we talked about that.
Middle schoolers. Well,
I think they were high, because like it was the same grade that.
Oh yeah, it was seniors, wasn't it? Like younger audience.
Right. It's still weird.
Yeah, very.
It's still fucking weird.
She got into it. I was like, I thought she might.
Well, she just kept going. She just, because like if she had stopped at like, oh, sometimes it's mechanical, sometimes there's chemistry. It's like, okay, stop there. Yeah. And then you don't need to keep going.
You could tell she was like drifting into the character. Like that's the beauty of it, because it's like, oh, does she just take Gracie on at that point where it's like, I'm going to see how weird I can make this, or she's not even considering the audience that she's talking to.
Oh yeah, she's just thinking about herself and like how she feels about those things because it's all about her,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a choice to do. And then I noted this down. Elizabeth's mom wrote a book on epistemic relativism. And I looked this up.
Okay.
So this is the definition. Epistemic relativism is typically defined as the view that there is more than one set of standards of epistemic justification, that there is no way to demonstrate that your set of standards is superior to any other set, and that knowledge claims are justified only relative to such sets. So to me, that basically says...
Do you think she was talking to Gracie when...
it was in a scene where like it's just those two.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, do you think she was talking to the situation that Gracie was involved in, to generate some like relatability?
I think it's more so just like the screenwriter adding that in as like a more like kind of nuanced look at like, this is just kind of a commentary on the film. Like your own experiences and your own set of standards are going to be different from somebody else's. So like, who are we to say like who is more predatory than the other person, right?
Well, I mean, you could even get into the sense of where does the line get drawn on standards of sexual relations,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like if it's that deep,
and also that too, and maybe I'm thinking about this too much, but like there's also the idea that this would be a very different movie in a very different situation culturally if it was a 36-year-old man taking advantage of a 13-year-old girl.
That's why I think that's kind of why it played into the way it played too. Well, and this is based on a real life event.
Mary, which I tried to look more up
about.
Something. Yeah, I couldn't really find that much info.
I didn't want to get into it. I was like, it's already kind of, for me, icky.
It is. It gives you the big ick, right?
But they still stayed. They stayed together. That 13-year-old kid and that gal. They were still married and they had 2 kids.
Right.
Which is really weird to me.
Yeah, it's super weird. It
Good.
Should be.
Okay, I'm glad that we were able to say that.
No, it's fucked up.
Yeah. Good. All right, there we go. All right, yeah.
It's fucked up, and it's like interesting how the community in this movie, a lot of the people in it sort of treat her as like, oh, we need to keep her safe. We need to make sure she's busy and like doing these things so that way like she doesn't get to think about these things too much.
She doesn't take another 13-year-old kid.
Right. It's like, well, not only that, but like I feel like, and I think the movie does a good job of like indirectly acknowledging this. Where like this would be a completely different situation culturally if it was like a dude and a little girl, right? Like I feel like people are treating Julianne Moore's character with a lot more, how we say grace than you would if it were a guy. Like when they should equally be treated like shit.
Yes.
Because they're both shitty people.
Well, and that's some of the perspective that gets played into it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also that and this is why I really like that they advance the timeline, because you look at it and time heals all wounds, and if they're still together, how much could you have said that she was of that nature versus what the love that she experienced was,
right?
Which I think that's where it gets into those really gray area, muddied lines of like, all right, if it was really bad, this kid would be like a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yet look at where they're at. They've got 3 kids. They're all going to college. Joe's a doctor. They live in a really nice house on the ocean. Like, at what point do you just start saying like, is it really messed up? Isn't it? And I think that's where the community's at, is that they're just treating her kind of like a caged animal. And it's like, it's better to keep her in our part of the world.
Like they perceive the situation as like not being the worst outcome it could have been. So they're like preserving whatever, like I guess, quote unquote, goodness is there.
Well, you can tell nothing's really normal anytime she's interacting with anyone.
Right.
And it's almost like everyone in this thing is an actor to some extent.
Yeah, it's like a weird, more subtle version of the Truman Show where like they're all acting a certain way to like save face.
Dude, I said that after the dinner when Georgie walked up, when the family is like, we'll be in the back with the forgotten families.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is so like live looking to someone that's just on camera. Like, and she is literally living a tabloid life day to day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
getting boxes of shit delivered to her.
everything that happens, any encounter that you had, you could, if she were to go in and show up, like that plant scene when they were cutting the plants, the lady that was like, great job, Grace, you're doing awesome. That thing looks fantastic, That lady probably went home and was like, yeah, I worked with Gracie, whatever today.
Oh, yeah, I worked with the Predator today.
Yeah, like they would talk about it. And that's and I think that's kind of what plays into her like whole mental state too, is she knows exactly what she is, and she has put on such a thick layer of like, I don't even know what you call it.
Naivete.
I guess.
Fake naivete. Which is why I think there's so much intention behind her, like the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
It's like she knows what she did. She knows how people perceive her. It's just that, like, for her own emotional state, she just puts up that veneer of like, everything's fine, everything's good. We need more hot dogs.
It's normal. Everything's normal. Like it's gotten to that point where it's normal. But every time she goes in there, you can tell that everyone treats her like she's like living in a bubble. So
I got more. A lot of these we already covered, so I can just kind of skip over them.
Do whatever ones you got. I saw this Saturday night, so as soon as I saw it, I was like, all right, this is gonna stick with me.
The line where Gracie says, Joe was with 2 girls before me, I've only been with Tom. It's like, it's just telling how she views and like minimizes the situation even further.
Oh yeah.
Gracie and Elizabeth wearing the same makeup. The naive line, which we already touched on. I think Elizabeth knew perfectly well how to use one. She just wanted Joe alone with her so she could use him. The like asthma thing. Joe accidentally calls her Grace.
Yep.
In bed after
showing the
parallel and how they're not different
predators.
Too much of it. Yeah,
he knows he got used, and he knows that Grace. I think he knows. He's at that point where he knows the situation that's happened, and he's still treating it the same way too, as a bubble. And we don't want to upset the, because at the end of the day, I really liked it when she went out hunting and she saw the fox. I thought it was kind of like heavy-handed metaphor.
Obviously, she's a hunter predator. Yeah,
and she just stared at it. And I was like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you don't turn your back on the fox, because they'll take something, they'll steal something, they'll hunt you down, whatever it is, and I think that's why Joe, he I don't know if you think at the very end there he'd muster up the courage to say that's it, but you can tell every time he's even walking on eggshells when he wants to approach her about something.
Well, it's like the first time he's really thinking about the situation in the way everybody else does.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden he has like a little bit more courage to like say something to her. Like he realizes he was used from Elizabeth, so then he starts thinking about how he was used from Gracie.
And how it plays into his emotions. Because at the time he's still developing those emotions. So he might not have ever felt that rage or upsetness. I don't know, whatever you want to, I can't think of a great term for it, but
like the weight of the situation, it probably never quite dawned on him the way, or if it did, he like pretended it wasn't.
I'm gonna say, like, if you think back, like when you're 13, like you could be upset about something, but by the time you're 19, you actually understand the implications of what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like if you get used when you're 13 or something happens, like you kind of feel like that's really shitty, man. But by the time, like, if you're 19 or 20, like, you understand that it's playing more into someone else's game that you don't want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So that builds up a lot more anger and resentment for what's going on. But when he's that young, those emotions aren't fully there. So he might have some sort of, like you said, the weight of the situation might not be fully grasped by him, but now it is. And now he's, like, turning it into, thinking about when he was younger and what happened.
Yeah.
But he still doesn't, like, go all the way, though.
Not all the way, but like you said, you get the sense of like after the kids leave the nest, after they leave the butterfly cage, things are going to be different.
Yeah.
I really like that the movie plays that out that way. Butterflies are a metaphor for fully developing. The insecure people are very dangerous line. We already touched on that. I think that was pretty much it. That's all I pretty much had for my notes. Everything else we touched on.
Yeah.
I think we went through it pretty smoothly. Was there anything else we wanted to discuss with May December?
I think the ancillary characters, this is kind of why I'm upset that this isn't nominated, because the ancillary characters in this thing are fantastic. Tom, the ex-husband, who you can tell is dry as shit.
Yeah.
You know, I got blotto drunk. I mean, and she took care of me.
I know. He seems like the most rice cakey human being. Like,
dude,
he seems like the type of guy who like peaked in high school.
Oh,
like he's that type of person.
You couldn't even say peaked. He just was a person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I don't think he did anything that was exceptional to anything. He just was a guy.
Yeah.
And two of my favorite lines, well, not two of my favorite lines, because this whole thing is rich with like situations, but just in that, I laughed twice out loud. The one where he's like, man, I went to a party and that's where I met Grace. And I mean, we were drinking, we were having a good time. I got drunk. I mean, I got blotto drunk. Like, that means, like,
whoa.
He got fucking wasted, right? Like, I blacked out. I was puking everywhere. He just goes blotto drunk. The other one is he sits down with Elizabeth and they're about to start a conversation. He goes, oh, hey, Jill, take care. And like Elizabeth looks back and turns to me and goes, oh, that's my dental hygienist. Mm-hmm. Like that's what dads do. Like, oh yeah, that's the store clerk. I go down when I shop at Menards every Thursday. I see him and we talk at 2 p.m. just because I have to go pick. You know what I'm saying? Like
100% guy is like standard issue. Like you look up dad on Google Images, you're gonna get a Shutterfly image of him.
Dad jokes galore. Nothing that's profane or anything like that too. Just simple, like. But then the other Georgie was fantastic.
It's funny because, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, I thought he maybe was related to Bill Paxton in some way. He kind of looks like he could be a slightly younger version of him. But I looked it up and they're not related.
No,
but like,
okay.
I don't know. I was like, he kind of looks like him a little bit.
I've not lied. Like he came up when he started talking to Elizabeth because we're still not. She does such a great job at the beginning of this thing, playing it off as I don't want to be here. I'm doing this for this movie that is going to be, hopefully good. I'm just going to learn things about people, right? And so there's still this sense of innocence, at least for me, around her. So when Georgie showed up and chair backwards, takes her drink, eating the dude's food, I was so uncomfortable and like on the edge of my seat, tense with like. This dude could fucking explode any second now, right? Especially because he just threw the water in the drummer's face. And that whole scene is rife with tension. And
so good.
And now I'm thinking about it, like on a second watch, I'm like thinking like, man, that would be really fun if he just fucking like went off.
Well, like look at it from his point of view.
Yeah.
And understand that like he was also a victim of this too. In a way.
No, everyone is.
Yeah.
Tom was a victim. I mean, as much as like he was just plain Jane Tom, right? I think that's his name.
That's his full legal name?
Yeah.
Plain
Tom.
Jane Tom.
No. But like everyone was like, he's got to deal with the aftermath of like, why'd your wife sleep with a 13-year-old? Mm-hmm. So now he's got to go through and question all of his decisions. That was Georgie's friend.
Yeah.
Like, and then he talks about the birthday party. You got all these, you got Honor, who they don't even really use in the film all too much. Think about
but there's animosity there and like the whole like weight scale and everything that's brought up.
Well, I mean, just imagine being you've just now entered high school and like everyone now is like, dude, your mom fucked a 13-year-old. Like that's you right now. Like think of all the shit she had to go through.
Well, not only that, but like they were in the same grade, so like they're the same age, aren't they?
Who?
Georgie and Joe.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about their oldest daughter being a victim in all this. Like, if you think about all the people impacted by the situation at hand that they just totally put under this bubble. Like, it's just always hinted to and kind of touched and looked at, but no one wants to poke a hole in it.
Well, it's funny because, like, I didn't even think about this the first time, but, like, watching it the second time, I really took note of it of, like, her family that she had previously is not small. Like, she had a lot of kids with Tom, it looked like. Yeah. Like at least 4 of them that I counted.
Well, and you can't tell because he remarried, I think, right? So that could be his like step family. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was having a hard time because I was trying to keep track of how many kids that she had. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she just had the 4 or if they might have had more outside of, Georgie. I don't know.
Right.
Because she goes, that chick walked up. She's like, oh, I loved you in Noah's Ark. Mm-hmm. Which is another, like, what do you think that could fucking be?
Right.
Like,
That sounds like a cheesy ass like Hallmark movie.
You know what I'm saying? Like something playing off like like a Christmas Noah's Ark. Or yeah.
Yeah. This time it's her story.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But that's probably and I really like the lawyer. I really enjoyed him sitting down. And he comes in. He's like, I came in from New York, and we wanted. And all of a sudden, Gracie comes up. I'm like, I know her.
I love the way he carried himself. Very academic.
Yeah, and like a very genuine, like in the way he was telling the story about how he remembered her and where he came from. It was very. I really enjoyed the characters in this thing. I thought they all did such a great job. And my final thought, besides Predatory, I thought it was supposed to be a little bit of like a soap opera. Like I was kind of playing into the melodramaticness with the music going on and this really small situation that was leading to bigger implications. You know?
It's taking the idea that like, oh, they're turning this into a melodramatic movie that doesn't have much going for it, so let's add some of those elements into this film just all together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I came across a few like people commenting on this movie being like, oh, I didn't like it. It's too melodramatic. It's like a Hallmark movie. It's like, do you not understand that some of it is kind of the point of it? I swear some things are lost on people.
Were the funniest part that kind of what sealed it for me, and then as the movie kept going, I was into it. But when she goes up to the fridge, she goes, "Oh my god!" And then it starts zooming in.
Doo-doo.
Yeah, and then
doo-doo. We need more hot dogs.
I was like, oh, I hope this film has like some of these. Like,
and then it cuts to him on the grill, and he's got like 50 hot dogs.
Oh, the whole thing's loaded.
It's fucked up with hot dogs. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was fantastical. I mean, not fantastic. It was fantastic.
Fantastical. You know what? We'll go.
I don't know.
Why not?
Why not?
Exactly. The official review from McClain Parker.
Fantastical. Oh yeah, this would be.
Put it on the box art.
I didn't know how I was going to receive it, and after watching it, I know how I've received it.
Well, that's a good segue into our ratings. What would you give it?
This is a 9 out of 10. This is a very close to like 10 out of 10. I think the only reason why is because I got so much out of it from the first viewing. I think a second viewing would be good, but like I don't know how many times I could watch this thing. Mm-hmm. Now, a little bit more of a screenwriter's mind or a character development mind, or just how to interweave a lot of like some of the actions or emotions or like what's going on behind the scenes in the brain, with Gracie and Elizabeth. I think I'd be lose myself more into that. I think if you're a writer, I really do think that this would be a fantastic movie to watch. I think that this thing is so well layered, and the characters are so rich, and all of the situations that pop up can make it feel organic. That the writing, I was just so lost in the writing with this thing that I really like it. But in terms, I think the reason, and I'm covering my ass here because I feel like I should give it a 10. It's just rewatchability. Like, I think that's the only thing that I think that this would lose me a little bit more, because I have such a firm grasp the first time of seeing it. At least I feel like, but I definitely think if I went through like your notes, I'd probably have like that on it, and maybe it's a commitment thing too for me, just so I don't have to watch it again.
Yeah, no, understandable.
But
I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. This is a 9 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
The first viewing, I gave it an 8 because I really, for some reason, on the first viewing, I think I just appreciated it more surface level, like visually, sound design, score, like acting, yeah, like taking the base elements of the film and really appreciating them by themselves. And then when you watch it, it's like, oh, this all like coalesces into something really layered and really nuanced and really well thought out and written. And this movie, I think it gets a lot more credit for me this second viewing. And it's funny you mention it because the rewatchability, I was worried that I was going to lose something from it on a second viewing because I watched it a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I honestly thought about going into this talk like not rewatching it just because I saw it. I'm glad I did too. I was like, I watched it semi recently. I remember enough about it. We can chat about it. And there's stuff to appreciate. Now watching this, it's like, holy shit, like this movie, there's so much more to appreciate than I initially gave it credit for. So yeah, this is a very solid 9 out of 10.
Good. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if this made it into, well, actually, maybe I would be, but I could see this kind of being a film that they would, I have no idea. I guess I'm talking out of my ass, but use for in educational purposes of like writing and, like yeah, you said coalescing events and actions and you know, yeah.
Every little line is rich with purpose, and like it all ties back into either the characters or the narrative. Super well written.
Only thing that I honestly didn't like was the fox scene when he's like, I don't know where she's at, and she's just got the gun and walking, and she sees a fox, and
right. It almost feels very metaphorical for the sake of being metaphorical.
Heavy hand. It was like, dude, you've got such a great film here. You don't need to thrust that in here to get like put it over our head, you know. But it does help with some because I took it as sly and cunning as opposed to being a hunter and a predator. So
nice.
You know, everything happens for a reason.
Well, speaking of sly and cunning, a character in the movie we're going to talk about is very much of that description.
Close to it.
And, of course, I'm talking about the character Frank from the film Thief.
That was a Todd Solondz film, and he's done some... Just from what I've heard, I haven't seen any of his films. I was expecting it to be kind of weird and far out there, and then it wasn't. It was really... I mean, it's very... just a good film.
Yeah,
you know, just a good film.
It's funny. I kept wanting to say Todd Field.
Yeah, the Todds fucked me up. Todd Haynes, Todd Fields, and Todd Solondz. Well, Solondz is one I wasn't even thinking of his name because I always thought Todd Haynes was Todd Solondz. And then I started looking up some of his films. I was like, he hasn't directed the films that I'm thinking of.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, who is this guy?
Todd Phillips directed Joker and the Hangover movies.
Phillips? There's another fucking one.
There's another fucking Todd, man.
It's Todd Fields.
Todd Fields was Tar.
Yes.
I don't know what else he's done.
He's from Twister. He's in Twister. That's where I'm...
He's in Twister?
Yeah, he's in the movie Twister.
The director of Tar is in Twister.
Yeah, look it up.
What the fuck? Okay, yeah, I'm looking this up.
Todd Fields. He's the guy that does the maps. No, not the maps.
Holy shit, you're right.
Yeah, he's Joe and Andy, we gotta get out of here. Or whatever their names is. It's
Oh, okay.
He's the map guy. He's got his buddy in the car with him. Remember the guy, the really weird looking dude?
Shit, I recognize him.
Yeah. Put it on the I want to say he's the map guy.
That's fucking insane.
Is it on the map? Is it on the map? That's why you don't have creases in the map. Don't fold the maps.
Yeah, he looks familiar now that I'm looking at a picture of him. That's wild.
I had no idea until I saw Tar and I looked at it. I was like, dude, I know that guy. Well, not know him, but I was like, I recognize that guy. There's another guy that was in the movie Predator that is a director. And
like a renowned director.
I gotta look him up real quick. Dude, this is why like when you start like sometimes like directors, if they don't have a face, I have a hard time with thinking of who they are.
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, Shane Black. Shane Black is in Predator.
Shane Black. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the guy. He's I can make it.
That's funny because he directed a Predator movie.
Yeah,
not too long ago, right?
He's done a couple. I'm trying. The Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
He did Iron Man 3.
Hey. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe not on the same bullet point of resume, but you know.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's a little side segment on why I get confused sometimes with like when we start talking about people and who did what, because like some of these guys, you know, oh yeah, he was in that movie. Yeah, well, are you sure he's a director? Yeah, no, it's him.
Also, I'm gonna say this right now because I'm looking at Letterboxd at the moment, and Drew finally watched The Green Mile.
Yeah,
gave it 4 stars out of 5. So that'll be an interesting conversation that I have with him at work.
I think you're a little bit harsher on that film. We walked away, but I still, some of the points you made, I'm like, yeah, I can't bump it past an 8, but it's still wholesome enough to me. And, you know, it's very, God, dude, what would you, it's very book-like. It makes you feel those kind of sweeping emotions that like a book would make you feel while you're reading it, you know?
I gotcha.
But yeah, some of the, you know, first time the two characters meet, because I think of like a wrestling match like how Sam would do. And I'm like, boy, if Steve Austin just ran in the ring with Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon grabbed him by the dick the first time that they were going to wrestle each other, I'd be like, this is really weird.
Well, Vince McMahon is.
Well, we don't need to go into what
Yeah.
he did. All right, we all know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam's gonna cancel us.
Unsubscribed.
Yeah. So Thief, we ready to go?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I'm gonna include all this in, but because I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I know Drew's gonna be listening, so Drew, I'm gonna confront you on your Green Mile rating. You heard it here first.
He avoided you. Like he rated that at some time.
Well, it's funny because like
seen him since.
he hadn't seen the movie before, so I was like, "You got to watch the Green Mile. I really want to know your thoughts on it." And
you
like,
thought he was gonna like join in with you?
No, I wanted to know what he would think of it, and he
Yeah,
was like,
I know
"Oh,
that.
it's not on a streaming service. So I don't want to spend money." Blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, fine. Whenever you get around to it, and
Yeah.
he finally got around to it.
Oh, now I'm kind of curious to hear that conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I'll let you know.
Speaking of a conversation about a movie, Thief, 1981's Thief, written and directed by Michael Mann.
This is the fourth Michael Mann recommended film that we've had on this podcast. I think Michael Mann's the most recommended director we have now.
Yeah, and I do know why from watching this one. Thief, starring James Caan as Frank, Tuesday Weld, not the real Tuesday Weld, as Jesse, Willie Nelson as Okla, Jim Belushi as Barry, and a very...
According to Jim.
Yeah, I can't believe he was in this. It almost took me out of it. Old Santa Claus looking guy named Robert Prosky as Leo. Essentially, I think this is set in Chicago.
Yep.
Okay. I said something to Sam and then he called me a fucking moron. And I was like, well, they talk about Joliet Prison and some of the things that happens with Frank's character. And I never really knew if they flat out said Chicago or if it was just implied. Set in Chicago, we follow the story of Frank as he is a con man, a safe cracker, if you will. And kind of pulls his own scores, within the city of Chicago from tidbits and what he gathers from people. Typically, it would seem like it's diamonds, but it could be money, it could be furs. And he gets roped in with what we can only assume is a mob boss with Leo. Leo comes into his life and pretty much says, hey, kid, why don't you stop doing your own scores? You work for me. You get insurance. You become legit. I can take care of you. I can look out. We could have a really good thing going on. And Frank thinks, you know what? I'll do that. And after hearing what the first score is going to be, says, you know what? That's enough for me to get me and my lady out of Chicago and take care of us once and for all. And down the well we go. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pull out. I just took
You have handwritten notes.
Well,
oh, wow.
So I'm going to tell you right now, Kyle, I saw this thing and the first 20 minutes, very like, what's going on? Like, when I say I think Michael Mann's are very vaporwave-esque.
100%.
Like, dude, the music that he uses, and I think it's of the time, but it fits in so well, and the lights in the city is so vibrant, and everything is so fucking vaporwavy. I think that's why Michael Mann's kind of like one of our dudes.
Yeah.
At least for me. And I can't tell if you're being genuine or not.
Oh,
maybe.
I'm being genuine.
Okay. Yeah. Oh.
No, I am. I'm just fucking with you. No, I really... Not to like cut off your thoughts or anything, but like I think it says a lot that he's been like one of the more recommended directors on this show. Is because there's a lot in terms of like just his aesthetic that just fits with like the vaporwave of it all, like the palm trees and the synthwave sort of score going on, and like I'll get to it, but there's a lot in this movie that I think sets the foundation for his later films to come after.
Oh, 100%. I wrote that and inspired some other films, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I have that written down too.
Nice. This is a great pod.
Hey, pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah,
I'm
no
going to give this show
argument,
5 stars after we're done recording.
Yeah, so first 20 minutes definitely roped in, and then the next 30 minutes I'm kind of like, all right. And then the next 30 minutes is like cool. All right, we're just gonna go through the motions. I kind of have a feeling like where this is going, and then it gets to its spot, and I'm like, all right, like feel good about that. And then it fucking 180s me in a way I've never been 180 before by some of the most hurtful things I think another human being could say to another human being, and then it just goes into fuck yeah. And I got done with this thing and was like, all right, I've seen Thief, like not bad, and I have thought about this movie for the last, I don't know, probably 36 hours more than I think I would have.
Right.
And that's why I'm very curious to hear what you have to say, because I've talked to Sam about this, and, I've seen it myself now, and all this came from memory and from what I really appreciated about this thing. And, yeah, so that's where I was at with the film.
So this movie, and we definitely touched on it where we said like this lays the foundation for a lot of like his movies, not just his, but like other movies in general.
Yeah.
This movie is so similar to Drive to me, just structurally. Yeah. Because you got the opening scene where he's like doing the heist.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, hey,
similar to Drive.
Take to the next step with like now the police are on us instead of we just get out.
And then you get like an understanding of like his relationship with a woman.
Yes.
And then you get like him having to do like one more score to like keep him and the lady safe.
Working with kind of incompetent people.
Mm-hmm. And then, he gets the money, but then things don't go his way.
Yep.
So then he has to take care of business and like separate ties from her entirely.
Yep.
And then he wraps it up by fucking killing them all.
Yeah. And
it's so similar to Drive that like it'd be such a good companion piece. Like you watch this back to back with Drive, it's like holy shit, these are like virtually the same movie.
It's just like, hey, we can take a little bit more of a modern approach, because I think the one thing that really took me out of this thing was how 80s out it is. Like there's
super 80s out.
Like there's a lot of things that don't hold up and that are very distracting and kind of like take you out of the film. But the Leo would be comparable to Albert Brooks in Drive.
Yeah,
like very low level,
analogous character. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like, all right, I had my piece of the city. He's probably not running shit, but he's got enough you can't talk to me like that.
Yeah. It's like if you took the character of, like, they have their differences, but very similar to Robert De Niro's character in Heat. If it's like you took that character and then you put him in the plot of Drive instead of Ryan Gosling. Like this is the type of movie you would get.
Wrote down Heat. I was like, a nice thing to me was that with the adoption of the kid, I was like, how can I make Val Kilmer be his son?
So it's funny because I wrote down some notes, not nearly as much as May December. This is my first time viewing this movie, so my thoughts on it are...
Well, this isn't as richly written as May December either.
No, say it isn't so.
But it's got points.
Well, like all of my notes are pretty much just like comparing the different inspirations Michael Mann uses in later movies that he does. So like the first note I have is a photo of what he wants his life to be. In Collateral, Max looks at the picture in his headboard whenever he needs to go on a vacation. That's what he wants his life to be. That's kind of what Frank has as the collage photo.
Yep.
Being honest about his profession to his girlfriend, similar to Heat. Taking scores is his life, similar to Heat. The best at what he does, Heat and Collateral, and arguably like most Michael Mann movies, I guess, because you think about Manhunter, you think about Ferrari.
Yeah, it's always top of the profession and dealing with some of the obstacles, either of getting there or what comes once you're at that pinnacle point.
Yeah, guys being at the top of their game, dealing with a situation that will challenge them to their very core.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's almost fun to think about, because like if you were to take that and say like on paper, like, hey, take Tom Brady and put him at, like, challenge him to his core. You know, that's a football reference, but it's kind of, I think there are difficult times to say, all right, like, you've met a worthy adversary, or maybe even something that's outside of your own world that you can't, because within your world, you'd conquer it.
Yes.
Right? So it's got to be something outside of your world that you haven't seen.
It's got to be something that disrupts the flow of what you're used to, and you're used to being the best at what you do. So what can we introduce to really like challenge that idea?
Without doing like a fucking, hey, you just got your back broken. You know,
right.
Like, this is like still like you're completely healthy and capable, you know, which makes the stakes even higher.
We're not going to handicap you, but we're going to put you in a situation that's going to like try to get you by the skin of your teeth. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote that down. Having to separate from his relationship because the heat got to be too much. It's very obvious. Ferrari. No, I'm just kidding. It's Heat. Promises there's one last score before he can be with his girlfriend. And then I wrote down similar to Drive in many ways. And that's pretty much all the notes I have, because otherwise there's a lot about this movie that I appreciate from like a soundtrack level and aesthetic level. I mean, shit, I really like the way Michael Mann's movies look.
Oh yeah. Even during this time, 1981, it still looks really gritty but defined.
It's like, it reminded me of like a less grimy, more neon version of Taxi Driver in that way.
That's what I was. Yes, 100%.
Where it's like you really, and Michael Mann, we've said this plenty of times about many of Michael Mann's other movies, but like the setting's a character.
Yes.
And you get the idea that like there's a life to what's going on outside of Frank's world and like outside of their own personal bubble. It's like everything is alive.
The vibrancy of the city really, it pulsates. I mean, it's like an organ, you know, and it really keeps the characters going. Like, it doesn't become stale. Like, a lot of the movie isn't stale, or points of the movie aren't stale because the city is, in fact, like, you feel like you're, not to say in Chicago, but in the city, is what I would say.
And you get the idea, and I think it's funny juxtaposing this with his other movies too, especially now that like we've seen his other films.
Yeah.
And it's a cool perspective too, because I guess you haven't seen this before either, which I thought you had. But to me, the best, most memorable parts of this movie aren't even when he's doing his thing.
No, I agree.
They're not even when he's like stealing or like doing the heist or like being a thief in any way. Like, the most interesting parts of this movie are like him at the diner with his girlfriend, or like the confrontation he has with the bad guys at the end, or like you know, the shootout between like Jim Belushi. The adoption scene.
The adoption scene alone is fantastic.
Scenes of dialogue and tension that do not exemplify like his skill, but just like him as a character.
Yeah, and how it's not even like he's disconnected, but you can tell that he's got a soft spot and he doesn't know how to have it shown.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing like when he goes on the date. Like, he can't just go on a date and have a nice time. Like, he's got to be rough, and he's got to curse and yell and to drive to his point.
Well, it's funny because, like, in thinking about this too, and this is something that I've heard other people discuss, so I don't want to take like 100% credit for it, but you think about Michael Mann's movies and his protagonists, and it's like, it's just mostly about emotionally unavailable men who are good at what they do. You got Ferrari, you've got the lead in Manhunter, you got Heat, Vincent in Collateral. I mean, really, like, the most vulnerable character you ever get in any of his films, at least the ones that I've seen, is Max. And that's kind of like the warring idea of like, oh, vulnerability versus stoicism, of like the two types of people who would interact in this sort of situation, where it's like, you know, most of his other films are just purely like, this guy's emotionally unavailable, and we're going to make that sort of like the focal point of the film, is like, there could be more there, but he can't, because otherwise he will either die or fail spectacularly.
Yes. Yeah. And real quick too, I remember reading this in Heat. I don't think I did the trivia in it, but there was from Chicago. I'm fairly certain he knew a thief or a safecracker.
Interesting.
Well, that's the scene between Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Heat.
The one where they're at the diner?
Yeah. So he had an earlier film come out. I don't remember what it's exactly called. It's the exact same scene. He pulled it from...
Wasn't it a TV show that he was doing?
It might have been. I've seen the scene, and so I read up on it, and apparently he knew a safecracker, and that conversation actually happened between him when the thief went back to Chicago and ran into one of the detectives, and they actually had that conversation at like a bagel shop or something. Like, they kind of caught each other's eye, you know? And so he, knowing this guy, he took some of those stories. So some of the films that he does too involve like you're saying, guys top of their level, emotionally unavailable, and I think he really draws from that character.
Well, he also draws a lot from, and you just exemplified it, from real life people.
Well, that's what, when I say character, I guess I'm talking, that's what I'm, okay. That's what I'm saying, is that like that person in particular has had such a fascination with him that maybe that's where he starts his sources when he's drawing out these characters in his screenwriting, or when he's thinking about taking on a film, you know?
Yeah.
Curiosity, but.
Yeah, it's fun. I did a little research in the bathroom before you showed up.
Yes. A lot of research, it sounded like.
I took a little too long researching in there. But no, one of the things that I did read about was the idea of like him using real people. And I guess the detective, the guy who plays the detective, Uzizi?
Uzirizzi?
Urizi, yeah.
He sucked.
The guy... well, it's funny because the guy playing him was, I guess, a real ex-convict that Michael Mann just knew.
Oh, yeah.
And not only was he hired to play that part, but he was also like an advisor on the film of like, oh, yeah, this is what it would be like to be a criminal, or, you know, what jail life would be like, or whatever.
What if that's the guy?
It might be. It could be. I'm not entirely sure.
We don't need to do it right now, but I'm Santucci, Urizi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of... He sucked. No wonder he sucked, though. Now I get it. He's not an actor.
I was going to say, he was like a very weak performance.
Oh, dude, he was awful.
Yeah.
You give me 10 points. That's how we do it in my city.
Well, it's funny. It's like, is this guy just... And I know like Heat came out after this, but it really felt like he was doing a poor man's version of Al Pacino.
That's what... I couldn't tell him, like, is this guy on the take, or is he like trying to bust him?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like... It makes it good if we know his intentions, but since we don't, it makes him shitty.
No, he's very one-dimensional, and he doesn't serve as much of a character as much as he is like just an obstacle for our main character.
Really could have did without the whole police thing. Like, honestly, this film, if they were... I mean, it adds a little bit more tension, and it shows you how good, you know, Frank is and what he does.
Well, that's one of the major differences between this movie and Drive, is that Drive doesn't even concern itself with like the whole police angle of everything going on.
Nicholas Winding Refn probably saw this, like, don't need that shit.
He's like, what? More work?
Yeah.
Fuck that. We'll just have it be about crime, baby.
Yeah, dude. I'm just kind of going through James Caan in this thing is like fantastic.
Oh, he's great.
Like, fantastic.
He chews the scenery out, you know, and it's very apparent that like the movie's just kind of like built around him and like him doing like this character. And the idea of like, and this is something I also read. This is like one of my other pieces of research that I came across in the bathroom, fishing it out of the toilet.
Yeah.
Was that it's very like not so subtly him playing a character who is kind of like doesn't really understand how society works because he's been in prison for so long. Like he's been somewhat institutionalized and therefore just like has a very base misunderstanding of just how the world works now.
Yeah.
Like technology, he hasn't caught up with it quite yet. He has a weird understanding of like his relationship with like women and people in general and like how families are supposed to work. It's like,
yes.
Hey, can I get a kid? Oh yeah, sure. I'll buy you a kid.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, sweet. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Grandpa.
It's like, did they just discuss human trafficking? Like what?
That was like one of the weirdest, and then they're hugging, and he's like, "Oh, great, I got a kid.
I got a boy."
Yeah.
Hey.
It's like, speaking of like May December feelings, like that one, I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this. He's happy, but I don't feel great.
Well, it's funny because like how much of that is just like Michael Mann just getting around the fact that he needs to have a kid at that moment, or how much is it intentionally supposed to make us feel icky of like, are we supposed to be thinking about this more? Like the gravitas of this?
Well, dude, he covers it up, and that's why I'm saying, like, I think it was just like, we're getting him a kid because, hey, you're not buying the mom. They know what they're doing. They're selling their goods, all right? No touch, no feel, no connection. It's like, that's it. And he's like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess I am okay with that.
Yeah. That's what, like, you said it to me. I was like, it's one way to view it.
Yeah, because Frank does have reservations about it. He's like, well, I don't know about this. And then Leo's like, hey, don't worry about it. The mothers don't even want them.
So Leo is Robert Prosky. I think that's how you say it. Is fantastic in this thing.
Oh, he's great.
The very beginning, at least for me when I'm watching it, because they're meeting out by the bridge or whatever, and the guy's like, "You want me to whack him? We're not whacking him. I'm going to use him to use like, he's going to take down some scores for us, So it's like you feel like it's just kind of like he's obviously got some pull because he killed the guy, right? Because he couldn't get him to meet Frank, and he knows Frank's the top dude, but you really don't know how much power he has. So you go from that to like up on top of the building, I want to say. He goes, listen, I told you, I'm going to take care of you. Whatever you need, I'll help you out. You tell me the time, we'll take down the scores. I'm going to get you legit. Don't worry. We're family now, you know? And it's like very grandpa vibe kind of coming in. Like, hey, I'm the old guy, you know, and I'll make sure that we help you out and we take care of you.
Have you seen The Bear?
The TV show?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, never. He reminds me of a character from that. I was going to make a comparison, but you haven't seen it.
Sam would get it.
Now I feel like a like
no,
a
it's
dunce.
Okay. Hey, we'll just cut that out. We'll trim it.
Yeah, we'll trim it. Cut it out. Yeah. Start over.
Thief, Michael Mann's 1991.
Yeah, you want to get this one, Mac?
Yeah. But he has that whole sense going around him. So even when you get to the kind of kid thing, you're like, it's almost like Frank finally is kind of opened up to the idea that, oh, he is looking out for me. Like, he is, like, helping me out. Like, that's a big-time thing. And I know it's, like, a really shitty situation. But, like, if you're Frank, like you said, you don't really get humans, you know? It's like, oh, you can get me a kid? Well, hey, you're not half bad.
Well, it's fine because, like, he lets it kind of get to him a little bit. But then, like, as soon as the money issue comes up, he's, like, goes back to, like, strict, like...
That's what I'm saying, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Frank's still kind of like, hey, you know what? Last score, he got me a kid. I'm just going to cut ties. I got him his money. He'll get me mine, and we're good.
This is a good thing going for me right now. I'll let this play out how it'll play out.
Because he doesn't, you know, and that's what, and that might be me being foolish or us, but I mean, I kind of was like, oh, this guy isn't half bad. He's obviously kind of like, he's got some power, but we don't know how much pull he has. Like, yeah, he did. I think maybe what should have tipped me off is he did kill a guy because the guy couldn't get him to meet Frank, but like, outside of that, he hasn't really done much or shown much of any power. He's only got like 2 guys around him at all times. He's always talking about family, legit, money, you know, making sure he's... And then he turns.
Well, I like the feeling that and I don't know if you felt this way, but I very much felt the way of like Frank is almost sort of pretending that he's like building a family. Like, oh, I'm playing... family. I'm making a family, like build like the building blocks of what like a family. Of like what a family should be, and like, oh, this is what I think it should. And he's not really like quite letting it feel quite like a family yet until he says to him, so like, we're gonna get out. This will be my last one, and then I can focus on the family and be a dad and like be a husband and all this sort of stuff.
I think that collage really did mean something to him. And when they were at the diner and he was saying, "This is what I've always envisioned," and it's some really weird objects of people dead and, you know, stitched together shit.
Right.
Which is like the weirdest.
It's a very warped view of what life is.
Isn't it kind of funny that he's like, hey, one day, and you're looking at it, it's like Holocaust pictures.
There's like fucking like, skulls and shit on there. Yeah,
there's a stadium seat somewhere. Like, it's like, what is that? And that brings you peace?
Well, it's like I said, it's like a man out of time and like his perspective of what he wants his life to be like, not knowing how the world works exactly.
But I had a genuine sense that he wanted to create something bigger and take that next step. So no, I don't know if he was ever pretending. I just don't know if he ever had that like, this will be it, or I will get this done, because there's a lot of tension that's supposed to be built around the 5th alarm and how do we crack the vault, you know, and there's a lot of like maybe insecurity that he's not really revealing, but kind of that's guiding some of his dialogue and actions. Because there are times like when Belushi comes to the house and they're walking, he says like, this is my last one. He kind of seems reserved, like maybe it won't be. Not necessarily in the sense that because they're going to get money and he wants it. It's that we might not take this thing down.
Yeah.
But
So Jim Belushi, I think this was his first role. Was it? I think I read that online when I was, researching. It's
got to be close. Like,
either it is or either it's close to it.
Yeah, but like he might have been in some TV shows or something.
It's funny because like he's not quite developed as a character. He's just kind of there as like his heist buddy. He's like, oh, this is my guy.
He's the goofy, like the goofy partner. You know,
kinda. To me, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it wrong, but he felt more like a watered down version of Tom Sizemore from Heat. Like he's like the trusty right hand of Frank, and he's always there and he's reliable, and he's not much more than that, but you know that they trust each other and that there's like a built-in friendship there.
Well, that's what I mean by goofy. I mean, he was kind of he's not dumb. He's just not.
No.
He's cracking safes and he's doing the whole wiring gimmick and all that. Like
he's just his buddy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's a whole lot of character growth in like even like Tuesday Weld. I don't think she came around to notice like become a different person or like we got much more out of her.
No, and the movie isn't really designed to be that way. It's not like Heat in that like every single character feels rich and nuanced.
Yeah,
like, this is very much Frank's story.
Yes, agreed. But I did think Leo's the one that threw me off. Leo's the one that threw me off.
He's weirdly magnetic in this film. Like you wanted to see more of him and like more of his interactions.
He's
with
got
Frank.
a grandpa vibe, is what I wrote down. He's a lot of what he says seems wholesome, organic, and genuine. Mm-hmm. And dude, I've never flipped the switch on a movie quicker than I did on this thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like
when the turn happens,
dude. I was telling Sam, I'm like, honestly, Sam, I thought it was just going to kind of end. Like, he hit the score. I wasn't thinking that and I applaud Leo for that because if he had shown, like, Albert Brooks has like a menacing vibe around him or look, or like you can tell that he's got some nefarious things.
He shaved his eyebrows for Drive to make himself look less human.
It worked, but I think we also see him stab someone. Leo doesn't. Yeah. You don't see him push him off. He doesn't openly admit to killing Grubb or whatever the guy's name is. The guy with the glasses.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know if his name was Grubb, but
it was something weird. It was like Grush or something. It was very odd.
It was a G name.
Yeah.
It was an unusual, uncommon G name.
Yeah, but he doesn't allude to that. He doesn't want to kill Frank. There's a point where he tells Frank he's gonna get him legit, like make him legit, and like before like they get him in there and Frank wants out and he's like, there's only 90,000 here, and he's like, listen, I got you set up in an S corp, all right, that's an equity firm coming down from my parent corporation. You got places in Charlotte, Jacksonville, whatever, and like that's all coming to you through profits that's completely clean, and it's like at that point I was like, all right, this guy seems a little bit worse, but that's about the worst talk he does. I mean, I know he buys a kid from someone, which is probably not great, but
not a good look.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he's like, I'm gonna go kill a mom and steal her child, it's like it's kind of like, as bad as that is like he's doing it the right, like maybe not right way, but the best way you could do it. He's
doing it the most efficient way, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't know exactly how that's what do you call it? Epistemic relativism?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those ones.
Yeah.
Everyone's got different standards on how you obtain kids, I guess. So, you know what I'm saying though? But he says like, I'm gonna get you a house, I get you kids, like, and
yeah, Leo only has the highest standard of how he illegally obtains children.
Yeah. But honestly, the whole time, I didn't think he was like a bad guy. I just thought he was like a goofy mob boss.
He's not like necessarily a villain, but you feel like he could be like trustworthy.
Yeah.
But then there's something brewing on the horizon, and then it comes to a head with that scene.
That fucking scene. That's when I sat up on my seat and I went, oh shit. Mm-hmm. It was not ready at that time. This movie was like, great, saw Thief, Well,
it's because like this movie, the way it ends, very similar to Drive in that way. But like, you think about this being Michael Mann's first feature movie,
yeah,
and it's like it's pretty impressive the way he's able to like cap it off in a way that's memorable, effective. It feels grand,
yeah,
and it leaves you feeling like you just watched something really enjoyable.
And there's like you said, the turn. It's a very, I mean, at least for me, out of the blue.
Yeah, speaking of blue, this movie drenched in the color blue.
Well, yeah, that's kind of his night. That's the vaporwave, baby.
I know, but like not even that, but like just like the choice of like the color theory of like Frank is just always wearing blue.
Oh yeah, depression.
You're wearing blue right now.
I am wearing blue.
I wasn't sure if you wore that because of Thief.
Leo and Frank.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't really pick up. I don't think like maybe first time viewing, I didn't really pick up on that.
I noticed it immediately. Like that first scene where the guy's parked in the alley and like the rain's coming down, like the reflections of the lights. It's like everything is so blue and just dark and like it just, I don't know, very vaporwavy, like we've been saying. But like drenched in that like coat of blue that I just noticed throughout the whole film.
I think, and that's what adds to some of the aesthetic, though, is that he's able to catch that on camera too, because it's not, I'm guessing, not tinted in post.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
No, it feels very like of the moment they're filming the scenes.
Yes, I'm trying to. We talked about that. And so I mentioned that Leo's trying to make him legit. You know, I thought that one, in a lot of the scene, like in a lot of like mob movies, you don't really get an aspect or a grasp on how they're able to just do what they do without getting caught. So I really like that Leo talked about getting him into an S corp, which is for tax liabilities. You know, it's untaxed. It's not taxed at that level if you're a part of a larger corporation.
Yeah,
you know, like you have a parent company, they're the ones that get taxed. So all that money that comes to you from the profits that you gain, untaxed. So that's how Leo launders his money. It's very funny because I didn't even think about this until today when I was thinking about Frank, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is what makes him a little bit more nuanced in what he's doing and some of the actions that are going on. But he launders money through his cars, you know, through selling cars and owning a bar. Well, if you're going to launder money, at least what I've gained from the Ozarks, you want liquid, right? Very liquid. So a lot of exchange of cash in hands, and the bigger the assets, the easier it is to cook the books.
Right.
So he's selling cars, and he's got a bar.
And that's it.
And think about how he's just able to quickly keep turning money. So like while he's stealing the stuff, he's also cleaning it out. And that's just part of him, like probably learning it and as he went along, or maybe from Oklahoma, you know?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you don't touch on, you don't really think about, but it's kind of like it plays into the character of who Frank is, and kind of like when you think about like, well, how is this guy at the best of what he does? Michael Mann sets up these guys with some of the actions or the ancillary things going on that are just part of the story that don't have to really be explained, but actually add depth to the character and some of like, just building up to that viewpoint that we have of them. Because like if you're going to make a stoic character, he's got to at least show some actions that make him. And Frank, from his dialogue, we would not say is a smart guy.
No, he knows a lot of people. He knows how to go about it, and he's good at doing his thing and has all these connections. Like, he owns the bar, he owns the car lot. He knows the guy who like creates these metals and like deals with these metals and knows how to like, oh, you got to use this drill to get into this. Oh, it's like a 4-layer locking mechanism. You got to get through it with this. It'll take you like, I don't know, 3 hours to do it. It's like he just knows very well how to like approach things. He's not like a genius. He's not like a brainiac. He's not like Walter White.
No, he's not. But that's what I'm saying. I think it builds into like, so if you were to look at him just like surface level wise, you take out some of those, like, oh, he owns a car lot and he knows a guy and he knows how to say like, oh, so he kind of got lucky. But I mean, like I'm saying, it plays into a little bit. No, he's smarter than what we're giving him credit for.
Right.
Not to say that he's
not a genius, but he's not stupid.
And it builds into why we can make it believable that he is the top safecracker in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine if they had Belushi doing that. Like we'd probably sit and be like, I don't know.
Well, also it goes down to like the casting too, because James Caan is really good casting. And
that really good. He was fucking fantastic in this thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. God. Speaking of Oklahoma, shout out to Willie Nelson,
dude,
in this movie.
Sam said
Willie Nelson jump scare.
I know, right? Like, he popped in. I was like, is that Willie Nelson? Do you remember we were talking about one of the things? I know Sam brought up like in Spider-Man movies, like someone dying or something like that, and he's like, they should have had like use this person, you know? I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? This is a perfect example about why you do that. Very minor character. The only one thing is a sage old man that gave him the wisdom and advice, but it actually attaches us to the character, and we want to know more about Oklahoma and care like what's his relationship with him. Yeah, throwing a jobber into that role. Do we actually care about Oklahoma?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun. It's like he's like a more. He's like a less knowable version of like Bryan Cranston from Driving Away, where like he's kind of like the mentor character. He's there to like guide the main character, but then like, things happen.
I don't know. You can't compare him to Cranston because Cranston what'd you do? Why'd you tell him?
Right.
You know?
But, just kind of like trying to think of like the parallel links that there could possibly be even more of with this movie and Drive, because like they're so similar still.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's incredible how similar they are.
I
wouldn't be surprised if Nicholas Winding Refn watched Thief and was like, I could do that.
Oh, 1,000%. I think he's got a couple other like sources that he just pulled together. No, I thought Belushi was more of a Cranston, but a little smarter than Cranston. That's what I was kind of going with, like when I was thinking of the parallels.
Okay,
but I also like the Tom Sizemore comparison too, because that's an adequate one. I
subscribe to that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Was there anything else we want to talk about with Thief? Was there anything that we didn't discuss?
So
it's not as like layered or as in depth as like May December. But
no, it's May December is a tough one to follow. Honestly,
it really is.
And this film is like it's a very surface level film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's kind of, but it's a great story.
It does its job. I think it does it effectively, and like for all the intentions that Michael Mann put into this movie, I think he met them for the most part.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what to expect, and this thing had a lot of Manhunter all over it to me.
It had a lot of just all of his movies all over it.
Like it's just kind of
especially Heat.
It's a weird one to watch, and you're like, oh, I guess this is kind of like the source of all of it.
Yeah,
you know.
Mm-hmm. This is where it all begins. This is where the fun begins.
No, I had there's a couple things I didn't like. The diner scene not the diner scene, but the lead up to the diner scene.
Oh, when he like pulls her out of the jazz club.
None of it made sense to me. None of it made sense. And then all of a sudden, and I told Sam, I don't know if I missed conversation, but all of a sudden she starts talking about how she dated a guy and he was a drug dealer, and I'm like, and this was before he opened up about what he did.
Yeah.
And I was like, that didn't make sense. So scene logistics played a lot into this. The other big scene logistic I had that I hate to say it, but the final score, how do they get to the top of the building?
Right. Well, I thought they said something about a chopper, but I could be wrong. Maybe I misunderstood the scene.
Yeah, they might have said that and just like not shown a chopper flying over the...
Right.
You know, and I guess if you're watching it, I don't know. Because then I had the same thing. I was like, well, you can't, fucking free solo the thing.
Right.
And you can't just take the escalator up there.
If they had like just added like helicopter noises, it would have mitigated
something
that.
like spanning like the skyline, and you just hear the.
Yeah, Michael Mann just didn't have the budget for either, I guess.
I guess, yeah. So scene logistics actually played into this a little bit, where and the final deaths were pretty campy.
They were campy, but I mean they're very like, I don't know. It kind of fits into that like 80s cheesy. Sort of thing that the movies got for it. Kind of got going for it.
I thought it was a little bit better than that thing. That the ending, those death scenes. Like I was like, this just doesn't feel with how smooth the movie's been, and what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are just kind of like glossed over. That they don't really get into, that you just got to take for granted. Also, similar to Drive in that way, where he gets injured and he has to keep going. Yeah. No, trust me. That whole thing. When it wrote out, I started taking notes, and I only took 2 notes watching this thing. And the second note was like, very influential for Drive. And then the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, I feel like Nicholas Winding Refn just kind of stole this. It kind of feels right, little copied. Yeah, like copied, he's not a safecracker. Let's just make him the master at stunt driving. Yeah, that'll throw him off the trail. Yeah, I don't know. If I rewatch Drive and I have that thought, I'm like, what the fuck? This is the exact same fucking movie. Yeah, like it just looks better. You're to storyboard it. It's probably like it's pretty damn close. Yeah, super close. Yeah. But was there anything else that you had with your... No. That's it. That's all I got. Like I said, this is I do a disservice. Sam is making the argument, and I don't know if you could touch on it, that this is a modern day Western. I can see that. You got some elements of it. Well, like it's mostly just in terms of how it physically plays out. So like, you got your standoffs, you got your sort of like campy nature of it. Has a lot to do with like
crime and theft and, you know, the law getting involved and everything. I mean, it kind of is a Western in a way. I'd say it's, you know, just more of like a crime thriller.
Okay.
It's a Western in the same way that like Breaking Bad is a Western to me.
Interesting. Yeah, so a little bit more on the surface level aspect.
In my opinion.
I got to look it up. Sam made the argument. He said that
I'd like to hear like his thoughts directly.
Yes, that would probably be the best. I don't want to say here, but he dived in a little bit more about some of the characters, the caricatures. What do you when they
like the archetypes?
Yeah, archetypes. Certain archetypes in this thing that hold up with the characters and how they propel the story for the protagonist. Yeah, that's all I got though.
Okay. We can get into ratings. I guess I can go first.
Yes.
Yeah, very solid movie. You can definitely tell the foundation of where Michael Mann gets his inspirations from and how this is sort of like almost feels the prototype of a lot of his movies to come out after. Inspiration for other films, most notably Drive. Shout to Nicholas
copyrighted films.
Winding Refn for just stealing the premise of this. Yeah, I still really like Drive. It's one of my favorite movies. Definitely have to look at it in a different lens after viewing this film.
You can't, you can't knock it. There are times
I'm not saying I'm knocking it. I'm just looking at it like, okay.
NWR, for me, that movie stays the same, but for him as a director, I'm starting to like, maybe that's why his other films suck.
Well, also, he didn't write Drive. He wrote his other movies.
Yeah, well, so if he didn't write it, then whoever wrote it maybe because that's what we got him knocked, right? He's the only one that just put it on camera.
They really like Michael Mann apparently
because he doesn't have like
fan.
There's not too much synthwave in that, but there's some like retro.
The score is very synthy and where it's set.
Yeah,
it's like California palm trees.
Yeah,
and, it's very like.
Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, maybe he read it. Maybe that's why he picked up the screenplay.
Yeah. Possibly.
Anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Just giving my final thoughts on this. Very entertaining crime thriller, very stylistic. I love the whole look of it and feel of it. And James Caan really carries this movie off of his back. So this is a solid 8 out of 10.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Did not see that coming at all.
What did you think I was going to give it?
I said 7. I originally thought 6, and then I bumped it up to a 7. And I was thinking that's a low 7, high 6, 8. Nice.
Yeah, no, very solid 8. I don't see myself really going past or below that, but yeah, who knows?
No, I yes, as a part of the zeitgeist of Man films. Very happy to throw this in here. The source of what I feel like as other films have just kind of spawned from. I still got to see Ferrari or Fugazi.
Yeah, I wish we could have paired this with Ferrari, but it's absurd that you can rent it for $20, and that's like the only way you can see it right now
without Oscar films,
without going outside the bounds of the law.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah,
way to go, Frank. Yeah,
you're the Frank of torrenting movies. The expert.
That'd be a great film.
Yeah. Hey, you want a steelbook? I'll get you a steelbook.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The mothers don't even want them.
Oh, human trafficking.
So funny.
Yeah, it's just delightful. We've talked about human trafficking and underage sex on this podcast.
Next recommendation's The Sound of Freedom.
Jesus. Yeah, paired with a Serbian film.
I was gonna say like Lolita or something, but sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Max forming ideas.
No, I realized I confused 2 films in my head.
Please don't recommend Serbian film in the future.
No. It's not that type of pod.
No.
We're not. We do this for the enjoyment of people.
Thank God. Thank pod.
No, what I've said. Frank's well written. This movie's made me think more and more and more as it goes. I think it's very surface level, but from what I get on the surface level, it's incredible. The looks of the city. I always applaud it when you can take the environment that you're in and actually make it a character and give it a good feel where you're not just in Chicago or you're in Detroit or you're in LA. Like you actually have the sense of the city, much like Taxi Driver. And Leo, I don't think I'll ever forget Leo, and I also don't think I'll ever forget the turn of this film, being one of the ones that I really had a 180, and that hasn't happened in a while. So I had this at a 7 out of 10, but this is an 8 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I the campiness of of it all. I just can't give grace to like, oh, it's made in the 80s. It's like, yeah, well, I'm still watching it in 2024. So
oh yeah, there's certain dated aspects of films that like some I think you can forgive depending on the budget and like the time. Some of them, I think it's like, things are different now for a reason.
Yeah,
so,
well, it's still, I just think about people sitting in theaters watching that and being like, wow, that was very violent.
Yeah.
And then I just threw on Fury the other day in the opening scene, so no spoilers, is Brad Pitt, like, skull fucking some dude with a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and I'm like, boy, how different times are.
Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of different times... I don't really have a proper segue for it, so I'll just get into it. We don't really have any questions this week. I didn't really make a post.
I was about to say, I didn't think I saw anything.
You didn't see anything, but I do have a bit of a game that I kind of want to play.
Okay.
That I'm going to call Reviewing Reviews.
Ooh.
And for this game, this is going to be like a quick little thing. I took reviews of both of these films. And I'm going to read a review, and I want you to guess which movie it's for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first one I have is chemically engineered in a Harvard lab to hypnotize gay men worldwide like the Chum Bucket helmet. That's the review.
Wait, where'd you get this? Is this Letterboxd?
These reviews are from Letterboxd.
Okay, I was about to...
Well, one of them's from IMDb.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Wow. For gay men worldwide...
I took like the most nonsense reviews I could find.
Yeah, that is a great chum. What was okay? You got to.
I'll read it again.
Okay.
Chemically engineered in a Harvard lab to hypnotize gay men worldwide, like the Chum Bucket helmet, like from the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad you understood.
I got that part. I was just trying to think. Interesting. I'm trying to I'm gonna go with Thief.
May, December. All right. 0 for 1. The next one. My youngest brother walked in whilst I was watching this and asked, "What the hell are you watching? Porn?"
That May, December.
Thief.
What?
Yeah, they wrote that about Thief.
You watching porn? Well, what point was he never even got it on with her, did he?
No. I don't know. Some of these reviews are wacky. That's why I picked them.
Right, yeah. This is straight out. Okay.
Yeah. It's this type of game. Our next one, calling everyone a jagoff for a week straight after watching this.
It's very, God damn it. Because I could see this going both ways. It just depends. This is a review of this film, a jagoff for a week straight.
Yep.
My heart tells me Thief, but how pissed off you could get from watching May, December makes me think that one. I'm going to go with, I'm going Thief.
It's Thief.
Boom.
Hey, we're 1 for 2 or 1 for 3.
Yeah,
there we go. That's okay. We can come back from this. So this one's a bit of a longer one.
Okay.
I was curling my toes so hard the entire time that they're aching as I'm writing this. Wow, everything about this feels so well crafted. The acting in this basically created the same feeling within me as watching those videos on YouTube where some random shirtless guy builds a house in the woods with nothing but an axe he crafted from a rock he found on the ground, which is to say, I was in total awe the entire time. Everyone was so fucking good in this.
Damn it.
It gives you nothing.
Well, I don't know who would say that about the acting in Thief, but I also could also see someone just being like, because Khan's is really well in it. I don't know. I'm going May, December.
Yes, May, December.
Okay.
All right, we're 2 for 4.
There we go.
You got a 50% so far. I found this ... strangely sexy?
Thief.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would hope nobody would say that about May, December.
Well, you really want... I'd like to know what their dating life's like.
I would not. So our last one.
Okay.
This one was from Imdb. Excuse me. 2 out of 10, waste of time. You think that this movie would be interesting and bring you to the edge of your seat, but instead you get completely disappointed and bored.
Damn.
So a roast.
Yeah, it is a roast, but I also, what sucks is I could see it about both films. I was a 5 out of 6 out of 10 with Thief until the turn. I'm not lying. I was like, it's really well done, but nothing's happened. And all of a sudden that shit happened. I was like, fuck.
I understand.
Oh, and I could also say that about May December. If you really don't like the writing or the characters, and you just think that you're getting like some rich story, I could see you being definitely turned off by watching that thing. Damn, I'm going May December.
You're right. It's May December.
Let's go.
So I think that was 4
out of 6.
4 out of 6.
Yeah, I got the last 4.
Yes. So hey, you came out positive. I guess.
Yeah.
Positive ratio. Congratulations. That was our reviewing reviews game. Thank you guys so much for participating. And thank you, Mac, for being my subject.
That was that's all right.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Was that enjoyable?
That's a nice little segment to throw in.
I might try to introduce that every now and again just to keep things fresh. Keep things spicy.
It's really fun, too, because those are like 2 films where depending on how you viewed it, except the first 2, I don't get that one at all.
Right.
But the other ones, I could some of them kind of parallel with like at least my viewing experience.
This would have been a much harder game for you to play if it was Ferrari versus Thief, like comparing reviews.
Yeah,
because I could have easily, if we paired those movies, I could have taken reviews that mentioned Michael Mann.
Yes,
because I had to skim through reviews that didn't mention any actor or any like the director or anything, just to like get it close. But man, if it was Ferrari and Thief, it's like this would have been a little bit harder for you.
What we gotta save is we gotta do Ford versus Ferrari and Ferrari.
Oh,
those I think would pair up well.
Yes, I think so.
Because that'd be an interesting take. Because I think it's the viewpoints of both lanes. Pardon the pun.
Speaking of lanes,
I
get to swerve into my lane because I get to recommend a movie. And I know what I'm going to recommend. So
you do?
Yeah. Let me look
up.
How
about that?
Let me look up some info on this.
You think it's a movie I've seen?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, I think it's one of those where it's like I have to really get the title exact.
Yeah, you can't skip the.
Yeah. Otherwise, it just doesn't like it when I try to do that. Okay. So this is from a director that we have not discussed officially on this podcast. I don't know if we've discussed him at all.
Todd Solondz.
No. David Cronenberg.
Oh, we have not.
Yeah. But I've never seen a David Cronenberg movie before, and
I have to look it up. I know a couple of them, but nothing that pops off my head. Unless this is from the 90s, and I might have seen this, but I had no recollection of it.
He's a director that's been working a long time.
Yeah, and he
still makes movies.
Avant-garde, right? To some extent.
Specializes in like more body horror type films.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Experimental comes to mind.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
But this is a film that came out 2005.
Oh.
It's not one that a whole lot of people talk about when they discuss David Cronenberg. Oh. And it's one that I'm intrigued by, and I know virtually nothing about it, and I'm not sure if you've seen
Psycho Gorman?
No. But I'm recommending A History of Violence.
Cronenberg did that?
Mm-hmm. Starring Viggo Mortensen and Maria Bello.
I've seen it once.
Interesting.
I don't remember really. I remember the opening scene. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's yeah.
But yep, that's my recommendation. It is
Cronenberg directed A History of Violence.
It's a smooth 96 minutes, so it won't be a long viewing.
No.
But I know virtually nothing about it except that Cronenberg directed it and that it's got our boy Viggo in it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Paired up with Eastern Promises.
Curious how that discussion will be, but that's my recommendation.
All right, History of Violence. Sweet. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I have not seen. It's 2005, right?
Yes.
I saw it in 2005 or 2006, like right when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember much about it. There's two scenes that pop out, and then outside of that, I'm sure as I'm watching it, I'll get associated memories.
How do you feel about pairing it with? Obviously, I would want to pair it with like a more current film. How do you feel about me pairing it with The Beekeeper?
I don't. Time wise, I am at a.
I wanted to ask you because I know.
Yeah, time movie in theater, especially with the Oscar films that we got to watch, is going to be. I'm not to say struggling getting these films in, but time wise, I don't think I'm going to be. We could talk about it off air.
Let me see. Maybe The Beekeeper's streaming somewhere.
I was about to say if it's like $4 or $6. One of the Oscar films I just checked out was.
It's expensive.
20.
Yeah, it's $20 to rent.
Yeah,
because it's still in theaters. So
yeah, I got Preston this weekend, and then just usually Jasmine doesn't care if I pop off at night to go see,
Okay,
but I think it'd just be tricky because I still got to watch these Oscar films too.
And that's fine. I wanted to ask you just to make sure, so we can pair it up with something a little more easily accessible. And then
there's got to be something on the streaming stuff that's relatively new.
Yeah.
Like
that's why I recommended May December. And then if you think of something, definitely let me know and we'll talk about it.
Another Cronenberg film. No, we got to do something new and relevant. Yeah, we'll look.
Okay.
All right.
Sweet. Well, thank you guys for listening to episode 65 of the Neon Crew podcast. If you don't want to be spoiled for A History of Violence from David Cronenberg, be sure to check that movie out before episode 66. Wow, get your kicks on Route 66, am I right?
Yeah.
Rascal Flatts,
Old-timey.
I think. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
R.I.P.? I don't think they're dead. Anyway.
In one of the songs, someone died.
Oh, topical.
Tropical.
A History of Violence. Someone dies?
We'll find out.
Possibly. I know nothing about the movie.
Kyle's alluding to more than what he said.
What if the movie it's titled A History of Violence and there's no violence in it whatsoever?
It's like a Ken Burns documentary.
Yeah.
Like that's Cronenberg's experimental. Like he goes through the ages. It's like Tree of Life meets Goodfellas.
It's like it's a history of like political conflict and like just general warfare, I guess. It's like, wait a minute, why does Vigo build? What?
But he does it like on a screen, and Vigo's got to play every character. So like he's got to dash off after he dies to change suits, and then they get like
it's like a one-man play.
It's like exactly. But then I'm thinking of like Killers of the Flower Moon. Remember when they do king? And then like the guy would, and then in 1948, like that's like they got that going on, and he's got to come out.
He does all the sound. He's very sweaty.
Yeah,
he's very sweaty. Oh my God,
are you kidding? By the end of it, he's winded.
He's sweatier than Usher during the halftime show.
He's like slipping as he's trying to like get off stage.
So if you guys don't want to be spoiled for that, check that out before episode 66. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you haven't already, and give us some good ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Pick up some merch from the Etsy page. That'll be awesome. Follow us on various social medias like Facebook and the YouTube community page. Be putting out videos all the time. What do you think of the new thumbnail, Mac? I know you voted for the old style, but I want to know your thoughts on the.
I don't think I've seen it. Okay. Wait, what one was it? Was it Shawshank?
It was the last one we did.
That's a new. We're spending time with that one.
I think so. Well, it's like a combination of both of them. So like it's still got the logo, but it's got the characters in front of it.
Yeah. Why did we go with Shawshank and Green? Why did we pick that one?
Because those were the movies that we talked about in that episode.
Wait, I guess so. I was confused about the thumbnail. Are you using the thumbnail?
The thumbnail's just for that specific podcast.
Okay, so you'll use the new thumbnail, like a new image with the next.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was confused about. I was like, if we're doing it with every time we come out with one,
I'm good with it. Andy and Joe from Shawshank and Green Mile in this episode.
Oh yeah, I was like looking at that thing. I'm like, why did Kyle pick these two films to span time with? Like, why are we? This makes no sense.
No. Obviously, my goal with it is to include characters from the films we discuss.
Yeah.
Because like the way we had it, I liked the way we had it, but the posters were blurry behind the logo.
Yes.
And it created like a nice image aesthetically, but I wanted the goal of it to be more so like you look at the thumbnail, you can immediately tell what movies we're discussing. So if I include the characters from those movies, then people will be like, oh, they're talking about Shawshank. Oh, they're talking about May December. Like. I'm going to click on it.
Don't read the title. Just
it's very like small marketing, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my.
I love it. I'm glad that's what we're doing though, because my thought was if it was every time, then yeah, that 100%. But
Right.
I thought you just picked it for like, this is what we're going with now. And I looked at this, I was like, the fuck did he just pick these two?
Yeah, John Coffey for every episode.
Yeah, I was like, just there. I was like, this makes no sense to me. I don't know if it was like a weird joke or like that's why I went with the old one. But no, yeah, that's cool. That's all. I like that, and that it'll give people a sense to check in and see who we're talking about.
Yeah. And it'll create like a consistent sort of like color scheme.
If you got Frank, you got to do there's two images on Thief that I like. I love this poster.
That would be, I love that poster too. I think it'd be too dark. It'd be very hard to, because the way I do it is like my phone crops the person.
Yeah.
Very like Photoshop style, but very basic.
Yeah.
And if I try to do it that image, it would probably be very messy. I actually have the thumbnail made already.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Not to delay our saying goodbyes. This is a very Midwestern goodbye.
Yeah, this is very. You're getting the Michigan feel for this podcast right now. But no, this is the thumbnail I have currently for the episode.
Oh, yeah. Because they're gonna crop him out. Where do you get the images from? Because I sent you one,
I find them on Google. There's
one with him after he does the final heist, and he's got all the dust and like the sod on him and like the ash, and he's smoking the cigar.
Okay, because like the hardest part too is like finding high resolution images.
Yeah.
So like if you find one that's like good quality,
1040
I might use it
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll see. I mean, we have a whole week before I release this episode.
Well, I'm telling you right now, probably tonight I'll get home and look up that image, and if I'm like, all right, I'll send it to you. You like it. If not, we use that one. That one's pretty clean too. I mean, what was Frank's last name?
I don't think he had one. I think it was just Frank.
Frank from Joliet.
Yeah.
Listen, lady, I was fucking incarcerated. What do you want me to tell you, all right? I did the best I could.
His credit is literally just Frank.
Dude, the best thing... One of the funnier lines... Is it? Yeah. One of the funnier lines in that thing is she's like... They get in there. They do the master shot of the adoption so you know that they're in there. And the very first thing, she goes, oh, see, you spelt male here wrong. It's M-A-L-E.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gives you a good sense of like... All right, this guy, he might not have the most conventional education.
Dude, not even like, hey, welcome here, welcome there. It's just literally like, oh, see, it's spelt male wrong. Like, what are they, like...
She's like, well, noted this down for your adoption process.
I see kids back there right now. I'll take anyone that you don't want. I know there's a bunch back there you don't want. Hand them over. I'll take one.
He starts like listing them very like kind of.
Oh yeah, a little inappropriate.
A little non-PC.
Probably a little bit more appropriate than the whole "we're gonna buy a kid" aspect. But yeah.
He starts just casually dropping like racial slurs like they're nothing.
Oh, dude, that whole film is littered with them. I mean, he calls the Eurizia a bad name.
Yeah, I don't even remember what he calls them, but it's probably a good thing that I don't remember.
But we don't need to say it on air. No one needs it. We don't want to get canceled. But yeah, that movie's rife with it. But the adoption agency scene.
It's got a little colorful language.
To the adoption is. That's 15 minutes of gold right there with how you could possibly feel about trying to, I don't know, form your family.
Yeah. Very frank way of going about it. Yeah. Very Michael Mann way of going about it. Well, cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed. Oh, shout out to Gideon for doing our music.
Yes.
And shout out to Lauren for doing our logo design.
We got to get people like sending us stuff. Maybe we should do, you know what we should do? Well, maybe not. I don't know. Draw thumbnails and we'll use that. You send some drawings in or something. It'll probably just be one person.
My son drew this and it's like, I don't know.
Oh my God, super bad.
Yeah. It's like a fucked up version of Frank from Thief. His like eyes are all droopy, and he's a stick person.
Like, just does the squirting blood out of his body.
Oh yeah, like colored in crayon.
Yeah, my son drew this.
Where'd
you buy him from?
Oh yeah, did Leo get a hold of him?
Yeah.
You selling them? What's going on? So yeah, shout out to them. Check out their various social medias in the description below. And I think that was all that I needed to say for the cap of this episode. McClain. sign us off.
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.